Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me on this Friday to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Friday. I like to give everybody else the day off on Friday, so it's me and you flying solo here today, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a Flintstones. You heard that right. There's a Flintstones reboot apparently on the way, an adult comedy. We're going to talk about that in a bit. Apparently, we're going to now have a Sherlock Holmes 3 actually just signed on a director. We're actually getting some movement on that, which is exciting. Could the 2018 Holloween film be getting 2 sequels shot back to back and then coming out in theaters in the same month? Yeah, you heard that right. We're going to have some talk about the reports coming out about that. We're going to review the movie Stuber. We're going to review Crawl. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, including Lion King getting no love from the critics whatsoever. As of this recording, it is officially a rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of things more. Let's get started with this, though. Speaking of highly anticipated upcoming movies, of course, we are always looking forward to the next James Bond installment. Now, we already know a bunch of things about the new James Bond. Daniel Craig is back. No big surprise. Rami Malek is our villain. They're already shooting. It's already been cursed. There have been explosions on set, injuring crew members. Daniel Craig, I don't know, broke his ankle, some kind of weirdness like that. It already seems a little bit cursed. But one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about, ever since just the first whispers of Bond 25 was coming, was whether or not Christoph Waltz, as Blofeld, would be coming back to reprise his role. Of course, spoiler alert, he survives the last film, and a lot of people assumed he'd be coming back. However, then Christoph Waltz said that he was not coming back for the new film. We found out there's a new villain in Rami Malek and all that kind of stuff, so it seems like he's not coming back. However, now there are reports going around that maybe he is coming back. Now, this goes back a little way. I think it was back in March, April, May, something like that. There were some rumors going around that Christoph Waltz would secretly be coming back. That didn't really gain any traction. However, now our friends over at Slash Film are carrying a story running a headline that Christoph Waltz may be returning for Blofeld as Blofeld in James Bond 25 after all. Now, where they're getting this from is from the Twitter account of a guy who apparently, I don't know much about Bamigoyi. I don't know much about him myself, to be completely honest, but apparently Slash Film says that he's a guy who's broken a number of James Bond-related scoops in the past. And Baz says this, exclusive, he says to his Twitter account, "Hello, Mr. Waltz, we've been expecting you. Hashtag Christoph Waltz is back as Blofeld in 007's James Bond 25, shooting scenes at Pinewood Studios. When a visitor spotted him, Waltz insisted, 'You haven't seen me.'" And then, of course, he attaches a little picture of Christoph Waltz in there as well. Now, of course, all of us love Christoph Waltz. This is a multi-time Academy Award winning actor. He's insanely good. I wasn't thrilled with his James Bond movie, although I liked his performance in it, as we generally always do with Christoph Waltz. So could he be coming back? Well, on the probability side of him coming back, look at a couple of things. One, they did have him survive the last movie. Number 2, there were earlier reports that he may be coming back. And now number 3, we have this report. Okay, so on the pro side that he may be coming back as fact, we got those things. On the more skeptical side of him coming back for this movie, we have the fact that they've already cast a new villain in Rami Malek. So there's that. That doesn't mean that Christoph Waltz couldn't play a smaller role in this one to set up maybe Blofeld as a bigger role in an upcoming movie. That's possible, I suppose. But still, they've already got another villain. The other thing about this is that this new report, I'm going to bring this up one more time. It's not Slash Film reporting it. It's Slash Film quoting a guy on Twitter who was told by another guy that they talked to a different guy who visited the Pinewood Studios, happened to bump into Christoph Waltz, and Christoph Waltz said to them, "You haven't seen me." So it's Slash Film talking to a guy in Baz who talked to another guy who he himself talked to a guy who was a tourist on Pinewood Studios and just happened to bump into Christoph Waltz and said, "You haven't seen me." Okay, This is not exactly what you would call verifiable truth or facts to run at this is. But again, there are other things that go along with it. Blofeld survived. It makes sense he may come back. There were earlier reports that he may be coming back, and now we're hearing this. So that's on the pro side. The broken telephone wire kind of hearsay, kind of chain here goes against it. I'll tell you what, I am personally leaning towards the notion that I believe that he is coming back for this one. I think I believe it. Now, you would certainly be forgiven if you didn't believe it, because there's really not a lot of solid evidence here to back this claim up. But I think there's enough there that leads me to believe that maybe it is. What do you guys think? Do you think Christoph Waltz is going to be coming back in James Bond 25? Do you even think he should be coming back? Do you believe the reports we're hearing? Do you think it's all a bunch of hogwash? There's a phrase we don't use enough anymore. Hogwash. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right. With that down, let's get on to this. If you guys have been watching me for the last couple of months, you know one of the upcoming comedies that I've been insanely excited about is the Dave Bautista, Kumail Nanjiani comedy Stuber. Now, I got my first look at Stuber at CinemaCon all the way back in April. That's the first time I saw footage from it. And I loved it. I love the footage they've shown. They've put out a number of trailers for this movie since, and I've loved the trailers. I love Kumail Nanjiani. His movie, The Big Sick, is like one of the most underrated, most pleasant surprise movies of the past 10 years. If you haven't seen The Big Sick, you need to watch it, and Nanjiani is fantastic in it. You guys know I'm a crazy big fan of Dave Bautista. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but I just love the dude as a person. I love what he brings. I love the enthusiasm he has. I love the humility he has. I'm just in Dave Bautista's corner. I love the dude. So this is a movie I've been looking forward to seeing for a while. So last night, I get out finally to go see Stuber. And I don't know that I've been more disappointed by a movie yet this year. I'm not saying it's the worst movie I've seen this year, not at all. But compared to where my hopes were for this film and how psyched I was about it, it just really falls flat. Let's start with some positive things. Stuber is a movie that absolutely has some upside. It does. And it absolutely, as a comedy, has some laughs. There are a few laughs in this film that are pretty good laughs, no doubt. The problem is, as a comedy, there's simply not enough laughs. A number of the jokes hit great, but a lot of them are, you can telegraph from a mile away. They're kind of lame, kind of cheesy, and just don't work. And one of the big reasons some of the jokes don't work is Dave Bautista himself, but we'll get to that in just a second. The plot is completely nonsensical. Now, sometimes for comedies, you let that stuff go because, hey, it's a comedy. You're not as worried about plot in a comedy as you are just about the big laughs. But if the big laughs don't get delivered to you enough, you need to start having other things to shore up your movie, like a good plot, good characters, good narrative, things like that. And unfortunately, once you move past a couple of laughs, a couple of good laughs that the movie has, there's nothing left there to support it. Particularly the story, the narrative, the plot is just completely nonsensical. So bad it distracts you. It actually gets so bad that it distracts you. Let me talk about another positive thing here. The performance of Kumail Nanjiani. Clearly, he didn't have a lot of great material to work with. He wasn't given a lot of gold to work with here. But his pure on-camera charm is completely infectious. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying him and Paul Rudd are completely identical, but he and Paul Rudd share that kind of quality about them. There's the pure charm of them as performers on screen can carry a lot of material a long way. Paul Rudd's got that ability. Kumail Nanjiani's got that ability. A lot of times his jokes fell flat too, but you could tell he was doing them as well as they could possibly be done. So I'll give them that as well. One of the big problems, though, to the movie, besides the fact that the main problem is the narrative story, bad script, all that kind of stuff, is the fact that I think this movie has shown that Dave Bautista, who I adore, is not ready to be the lead of a film, to carry a film on his considerably broad shoulders. You know, Dave Bautista and John Cena are both guys, coming out of the wrestling background that really did seem to find their groove in comedic supporting character role kind of stuff. And they started to develop, and you see it. But then what happened? John Cena, they threw him in a lead role for Blockers, and it became apparent that he wasn't ready to lead a film yet. He may get to the point where he can do it, but he ain't there yet. Dave Bautista has been getting better and better and better as a performer. He puts in a lot of hard work. He's dedicated. He's humble, all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, I think what Stuber has shown is that he is not ready to be the guy. I still like him very much in his smaller supporting roles. He has a lot to offer in those types of limiters roles, but he does not have the tool belt available to him as a performer yet that he can carry a film on his own. Yes, mainly the problem was the narrative and the story and the dialogue and all that kind of stuff, but where Kumail Nanjiani could take some of the poor dialogue and poor narrative and make it work as well as he could, with Dave Bautista, all it really did was expose the weaknesses he still has as a performer. Will Dave Bautista get there? I think so. Is he there yet? I think this movie makes it clear. And yesterday on the John Campea Show, we talked about the fact that Dave's other comedy that he has coming out called My Spy, which was supposed to come out in August. Yesterday, they announced that it's being bumped to 2020. I think this is part of the reason. I don't know that for sure, but it feels to me like this is going to be part of the reason. Look, overall, Stuber is not a complete dumpster fire, but it's a poor film, and one that I was extremely excited about. I loved the trailers. I love the people involved, but it just falls flat. And I found myself in the movie theater mostly just waiting for the movie to end. And it's unfortunate. I wish it could have been better, but hey, it is what it is. And that's my thought. Not the worst film of the year, not a complete dumpster fire. There are some decent laughs in it. Simply not enough, though. Overall, bad film. Have you guys had a chance to see Stuber yet? If so, jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, let's move on to this next movie here. I did a double feature last night. The first film I saw was Stuber, and the second one was another movie I really didn't know much about until the first promo spots for it dropped, and that's the movie Crawl. The first spot for Crawl came out, and I remember Meyer Burnett and I talked about it on this show, and we were just like, this looks great. It looks like such a cheesy, low-budget, indie kind of film, but for whatever reason, it looks great. I'm really excited to see this for what it is. And then early word started coming out from it. The early buzz on social media was very strong about it. So, okay, I went to go see Stuber, a little bit disappointed, going to watch Crawl, and I'm telling you what, guys, this movie delivers. This movie delivers. Now, you guys know the premise from the trailer. It is really no more complicated than what the trailer shows you. A girl in the midst of a hurricane going on in Florida goes to check on her dad, only to find that dad is trapped in a house with a bunch of gators, and the floodwaters are rising, and they gotta get out of there. That's the whole movie. It doesn't pretend to be anything more than that. It doesn't try to be anything more than that. It's a simple, basic premise for a simple little thriller horror, and they execute it so well. I'm telling you what, okay, the first 10 minutes of this movie, little bit slow, setting some things up. They establish that this girl is a world-class swimmer. She swims on the university swimming team. That becomes important information later in the movie, as you can well imagine. She's in the water with gators. So they want to establish that she's a swimmer. They establish a little bit of background information. It's a broken family. Mom and dad are separated. She still loves her dad, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. So she goes into a hurricane zone to check on her dad because they can't reach him. And then that's when the movie really starts. About 10-15 minutes in, the movie starts, the gators show up, and from that moment, all the way to the ending of the film, it is nonstop. You as an audience member, there's not a second I'm not gripping the arms on my seat and like my neck is tense. And it's like, because even when there's not like action gatory things going on, the suspense of it and the tension of it was executed so well. Look, I took this film program from this guy that Quentin Tarantino went to once, actually, a guy by the name of Dove S.S. Simmons. And, he just said something a lot of other people said. There is something to be said for movies, yes, for deep, complicated, intricate plots, and those can be wonderful. But sometimes the keep it simple, stupid, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, just a simple concept that you execute well can be extremely satisfying for an audience. Movies are made to be experiential events. We go to movies to experience something, and I'll tell you what, you get an experience out of Crawl. You completely get an experience out of Crawl. I enjoyed this movie, edge of your seat the whole time once the action kicks in. It's all thriller, no filler. It's a tight 90 minutes or right around there. We heard some other people talking about that. It's very tight. It doesn't waste any frames of screen time. You get in, boom, you get out. It's just a good, fun time at the movies. And if you had told me a month ago that this little low-budget indie horror film Crawl would have a higher Rotten Tomatoes rating than Lion King, I would have said you're crazy. And yet this is the world we live in. I'll tell you what, I may have walked out of Stuber a little bit disappointed. I was exceedingly happy with Crawl. Good, fun film. If you guys have been thinking about going to check it out, absolutely do. For a low-budget feeling movie, by the way, the effects of the crocs, or of the alligators, I should say, felt great. The effects on the alligators, they looked wonderful. It's brutal and gory and exciting, and it's just a good fun time, guys. Go and check out Crawl if you've even remotely been thinking about it, and have yourselves a good time. All right, guys, with all that stuff down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics of the day. How do I select my main topics around here? Well, you see, you guys come up with the main topics by simply going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, fill out that form with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on The John Campea Show. With that out of the way, let's get to topic number one. And our first topic today is submitted to us from Michael Callahan, who writes, "So I was surprised to see that after the glowing first reactions from you amongst many other critics, that Lion King is sitting at 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. It seems it is getting bashed for being a shot-for-shot remake without its own identity. Do you think this will affect the box office, considering we still have a week until its release? Thanks, and keep up the great work." All right, thanks a lot for that question, Michael. And yup, Lion King, the official review embargo lifted yesterday. Now, of course, the social media review embargo lifted a couple of days ago. Across the board on social media embargo, the people seeing the film praising it. But, as I've said before, a lot of times if somebody doesn't like a movie they just came out of, they won't put up a social media reaction. You know, I'm more excited when I come out of a movie that I really like to jump on my social media and pop up a social media reaction. If I'm lukewarm on a movie or don't like it, I don't feel really motivated to jump on social media and put up a reaction. And it seems like that was the case with Lion King, because when the official review embargo lifted yesterday, boom, critics do not like Lion King. That's an exaggeration. Look, as of this recording, Lion King has a 59%. That's a rotten on Rotten Tomatoes for you guys keeping score. Now, that does mean that a small majority of critics like myself like the film. However, this was not what we were expecting before I saw the movie, and it's certainly not what I expected once I saw the movie, because I unabashedly adore this movie. This movie's wonderful. To me, this Lion King is the new Man of Steel. It's the new Man of Steel. A movie that I adore beyond description, and yet the critics give it no love. I know what it is. It's now Man of Steel and Lion King. I mean, there are other movies that I really love that the critics don't universally like I don't know, the first Thor movie or whatever. Aladdin is another one, but this is because I don't just like Man of Steel. I freaking love Man of Steel. I didn't just like Lion King. I loved it. Now, don't get me wrong. Lion King is not, I've said this before, Lion King is not the complete, unabashed perfection of the 1994 animated film. That 94 animated film to me is the greatest animated film of all time. Simple, pure, bang, done, all questions answered, blah. It is. And so this remake is not as good to me as the 94 film, but it's wonderful. Like only the fifth film in my life I cried in. I thought it was funny. I thought it was engaging and entertaining and all that sorts of good stuff. I just adored it. And outside of Marvel, I haven't been adoring everything coming out of Disney lately, but this I adored. I just adored it. And I'll tell you what, I adored it so much that look, there are many times that I've come out of a movie that I really liked, and I've gone, I really liked it, but I think there's going to be a bunch of people that don't, but I really liked it, right? Lion King wasn't that for me. I came out of Lion King, I seriously expected to see 92, 93% critic rating. I really did. I really thought that's what we were going to see. It's not what I thought it deserved. It's what I thought we were going to get. So when I started seeing, 61%, 59%, 58%, I was stunned. And to this day, I remain stunned because like Man of Steel, I adore this movie and the critics just don't want to give it any love. And look, here's the thing. I'm not going to be one of these losers that makes up excuses for why the critics don't agree with what I think. Because, a lot of times a movie comes out, get a critic rating, and you get, people making excuses. Oh, the critics have an agenda against this movie. Oh, the critics get paid off to say they don't like this movie. I'm not going to be one of those pathetic losers. A lot of the critics saw it. It didn't work for them. All film is subjective. And I accept that. And I respect that. I don't understand it, but I respect it. And this is just one of those things like Man of Steel to me where they saw it and it's just not getting the love that I think it deserves. I feel like there's a lot of critics who are looking at this movie and not judging the movie on its own merits. They're judging it, it seems to me, because I've seen some, I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths. I've seen a number of critics actually say this explicitly. They're saying that I'm looking to this movie and I want to see if it does this compared to the original. And they really just approach it in a comparison to the original. For me, with remakes and sequels, you need to judge movies on their own merits. And after reading some of the reviews, I'm feeling like some of them didn't want to do that. And that's fair. That's fair. I'm not saying it's not fair. It is fair. If that's how they want to approach it, that's fair. So I'm just like, wow, woo, I was not expecting that, guys, but there's no getting around it. These are disappointing critic numbers for a movie like Lion King. Now, you asked the question, do I think this is going to have an effect on its box office? The answer is yes. It is going to affect the box office. Seeing these types of critic reviews is going to affect the box office. Is it still going to be a massive hit? Yes. It's still going to be a massive hit. It's still going to make tons of money, but it's not going to make its potential. Because while this may not sink this movie, it's still going to be a huge hit, make tons of money. It's not going to make as much money as it would have if the reviews came out for Lion King closer to what I thought they should have been, which is like in the 90% range. If it came out into the 90% range, whatever money Lion King ends up making, it would have made a little bit more. All the studio people tell me it's about a 10% swing either way. And as a result, if this movie was going to make $200 million, now it's probably going to make about 185. If it would have made 220 million, now it's probably going to make 201. So it's not going to change. I don't think the reviews are going to change Lion King from being a hit to being a flop. No. But it's going to have an impact. It is going to have an effect. And that's just the reality of the movie business. That, every other movie has to deal with that. Lion King's got to deal with it too. So it is what it is. I think the critics are crazy. 90% of the time, like most of us, 90% of the time, I'm in agreement with most of the critics. But this is one like this, Aladdin, Man of Steel, whatever. This is one where I just think they're crazy because I thought it was great. But it brings up something else interesting. When you look at a highly anticipated, high-profile film like A Lion King coming, I cannot help but think about all these people who go, but John, everybody knows Disney pays off the critics. Disney critics have an agenda for Disney. Critics are biased for Disney. Anything Disney does, critics are biased for. We see that all the time. Well, like I kind of mentioned earlier, other than a lot of the Marvel stuff, which everybody loves, critics, audiences, everybody. So take that out of the equation. The critics have not been showing a lot of love to Disney lately. Let's just look at just the last couple of years. Just the last couple of years. The critics have been hammering Disney films, and a number of them rightfully so, in my opinion. But let's look at some of these Disney films that we've had going on. Wrinkle in Time, right? All these people, critics are going to love anything that has a female lead. Critics are going to love anything that has a minority lead. Critics are going to love anything by Disney. Wrinkle in Time was a bad film, and it got a bad critics score, 42% for Wrinkle in Time. Then Nutcracker came out, 32%, not a good film. In my opinion, I'm sure there are people who enjoy Wrinkle in Time. I'm sure there are people who enjoy Nutcracker. I thought they were bad films. A lot of other people thought they were bad films. 42%, 42%, 32%. Dumbo was out recently. Again, not a very good film. I was disappointed in Dumbo. 46%. Films that are in theaters right now. Aladdin. I was really delighted by Aladdin. I wasn't expecting, I thought it was actually quite good. But hey, critics, bad Disney. 57%. Not 80, not 90, 57%. And now Lion King, their highest profile one that they have coming out, opens obviously next week. 59%. 59%. Now, I am not, again, going to act like one of these losers and go, the critics have an agenda against Disney. No, they're just watching the films and I like it. And for 3 of these films, I agree. I didn't think Wrinkle in Time was very good. I did not think The Nutcracker was good. I didn't think Dumbo was good. But I got to disagree with them on Aladdin and Lion King because I think they're both great. Lion King better than Aladdin. But still, if you just look at this, where is this pro-Disney bias I keep hearing about? Where is this critics have an agenda for Disney thing? Because I ain't seeing it. 42%, 32%, 57%, 59%, 46%. It is what it is. But listen, it's just, again, it speaks to the subjective nature of movies. It just speaks to the subjective nature of movies. You know, you can watch one film, have a certain experience with it, and then I can watch the same film, but have a totally different experience from it. And this just speaks to that. And again, a lot of times, like for me, I think 90% of the time, me as a film fan, my opinions and the general consensus among the critics usually aligns. But every once in a while, they don't. Like A Man of Steel and like a Lion King. So I love it. I think it's a fabulous experience, but you can't get away from the fact that they swung and missed with a lot of the critics. Swung and missed. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. Fact is, with a lot of the critics, they swung and missed. Facts are facts. I think it's going to have an impact on the box office. Not a huge impact, but an impact nonetheless. What do you guys think about that? Do you think there's going to be a massive impact, a moderate impact like myself, or absolutely no impact whatsoever? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. If you're watching live right now, why don't you jump on the super chat and leave your thought on that as well. And we'll get to that when we get into the live questions in just a little bit. Okay, with that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today comes to us from Cade Quillen, who writes, "Hey John, did you hear the rumor about the back-to-back Halloween 2018 sequels? According to an quote-unquote extremely reliable insider reported on a website called Bloody Disgusting, we could see 2 Halloween sequels come out in the same month of October of 2020. Do you think there is any validity to these rumors? And if true, do you think it's a good idea? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for that question, man. And yeah, first of all, Halloween, I'm in the minority here. I don't like any Halloween movie. I don't like any movie out of the Halloween franchise. I even don't like the original. Yeah, I know. You're going to throw things at me now. People are yelling and screaming at me through their computer monitors across America. Nay, the world. But I got to be honest with you. The first Halloween movie doesn't work for me. I've never liked any of the Halloween films. So then comes this Halloween film last year. Jamie Lee Curtis is back. It ignores all the other Halloween films. It acts as a true sequel to the original Halloween, and I loved it. First Halloween film I've ever liked, and I absolutely loved it. I ate it up. I just thought it was great. So anyway, we knew there was going to be a sequel coming. I mean, it's insanely profitable. They made the movie for bus fare, made hundreds of millions of dollars. Big profit. We knew it was coming and a new one's coming. So what's this rumor? What are these stories about them shooting 2 sequels back to back and maybe coming out in the same month? Well, what he's talking about, this is a report from one of the preeminent horror websites out there, Bloody Disgusting. I like that site, always have. But anyway, they wrote the following. This is where this is coming from. An extremely reliable insider hit me up with bonkers news late Sunday evening that I haven't been able to verify. I'm being 100% transparent here. What I'm told is that David Gordon Green has decided to return and direct back-to-back sequels to Holloween, the 2018 film. From what I'm told, not only will they be filming 2 sequels back-to-back, but they are discussing releasing both in the same month. Yes, it's within the realm of possibility that we will see 2 Halloween films released in October of 2020. Now, of course, once again, this is coming from one of the preeminent horror sites on the internet, Bloody Disgusting. And guys, what can you say about this other than this is unprecedented? Like, the closest thing I think we've ever seen to something like this before was when they shot, I believe they shot The Matrix 2 and 3 back to back, and then I believe released them within 6 months of each other. I might be not remembering that right. It might have been 4 months, might have been 8 months, but whatever. But they released Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 within a few months of each other. That's the closest to this I've ever heard. We don't often hear of movies, let alone sets of sequels, shooting back to back. And what I have never heard of, at least not off the top of my head, maybe you guys can think of an example that works here, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. I have never seen an idea of 2 films in the same franchise released together in the same month. And I'm not talking about 2 films in the same cinematic universe. I'm talking about 2 films of the same franchise. X movie part 2, X movie part 3. In this case, Halloween part 2, Halloween part 3. I'm torn here, guys, as to whether or not how much I believe this. And here's why. On the one hand, it is coming from Bloody Disgusting. They have their finger on the pulse of horror. I trust them a lot when it comes to horror. They're not always 100% right, but I basically trust them when it comes to horror. And they seem pretty insistent that this is coming from a completely unique, he goes on the article to write that this is a source that's never let him down, all that kind of stuff. So that says a lot. We know they're doing a sequel, so that works towards it as well. But I still have a problem believing it because, again, this is unprecedented. Shooting 2 parts back to back, okay, I could see them doing that. I could buy into that. The notion that they may release them in the same month? Now, I'll tell you what, I'll be excited if they do it, just because it's something that's never been done before. Simply on the basis that it's something that's never been done before, I would be very intrigued by it, and I'd love to see it. Because I'll admit, after watching the newest Halloween movie, if you had put out part 2 3 weeks later, I would have been there. I would have been there with bells on to go see it. And I think a lot of you guys would have too. So I'm torn as to whether or not I believe it, but I'm going to say I'd be down for it. Again, if for no other reason that it's never been done before, I want to see if this could work. Can you put out 2 films in the same series within a month of each other and have that work? I'm fascinated to know. I'll be there, but I don't know if a lot of other people would be there. Guys, I want to know, what do you guys think about this? Number 1, do you think these reports are real? Do you think they're going to shoot Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 back to back and then release them in the same month of each other? That's number 1. The second question, which is a very different question, is would you be down for that? Would you be excited for them to put 2 films in the same series out within the same month of each other? Or do you think that's just going a little bit too far? I want to know what you guys think. Throw something in the super chat, jump down in the comment section, wherever you want. Let me know what you guys think about that. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today comes to us from S. Beam, who writes, I just read that Sherlock Holmes 3 has found a director in Dexter Fletcher, who helmed Rocketman and finished Bohemian Rhapsody. Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law will return, of course. Guy Ritchie must be too busy. I hope a change in director will bring the same type of movie we saw in the first 2, and it's unfortunate we won't see it until 2021. All right, thanks a lot for that, S-Beam. So, yes, in case you guys did not hear the news, Sherlock Holmes 3 is finally coming. It has been 10 years since the first Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, 2009. The sequel came out just 2 years later in 2011. Both films made well over $500 million each. It's a successful franchise. It's an enjoyable franchise. I didn't like part 2 as much as part 1, to be honest with you. I didn't think part 2 was as good as part 1. That being said, I do find them to be enjoyable films. Why we've waited this long, I'm not really sure. Some people have suggested it's because of Robert Downey Jr.'s schedule. The Rock shoots 8 movies a year, and yet he can find time to make more movies, right? So I don't know how reliable that is, but for whatever reason, they've done. Guy Ritchie directed the first 2. He just did a great job, in my opinion, directing Aladdin, but apparently he will not be back, which is something we've suspected for a while. And they've gone out and got Dexter Fletcher, who did a great job directing Rocketman. I really, like, is this picture of Dexter Fletcher not the stereotype? Like, if you were an artist and I said, draw your stereotype in your head of an artsy Hollywood director, is this not the picture that you would draw? I mean, come on. He's got the scarf, the bushled hair. That is a living stereotype right there. He's a great director. I'm just saying that is a living stereotype right there, my friends. Anyway, Dexter did a great job with Rocketman. Am I a little bit bummed that we're not going to get Guy Ritchie with his particular sensibilities back for Sherlock Holmes 3? I'm a little bit bummed by it, but at the same time, I always think it can be a good thing for a film franchise to mix in directors, just to keep things fresh, to give new perspectives, to put a new eye behind the lens. I think that can be a positive thing. I think it'd be a positive thing. Now, granted, Guy Ritchie hasn't directed a Sherlock Holmes film in 8 years, but still, I think this can be a positive thing. And if you're going to go out and get a new director, Dexter is definitely a good guy to get. Again, just a great job on Rocketman. Not as good as Bohemian Rhapsody, but a great job on the film nonetheless. That's a tricky film to direct. He did a great job with it. And I think he can bring something fresh and new to the Sherlock Holmes franchise. But then again, at this point, anything they do in the Sherlock Holmes franchise is going to feel fresh and new because it's been 8 years since we've had the other one. Look, as for myself, I'm stoked about it. I am. I'm excited that they're finally doing this. I do think they waited too long. I think a Sherlock Holmes 3 is probably a film that should have come out 3 or 4 years ago. But hey, it is what it is. Robert Downey Jr.'s dance card is a little bit more open now. He's got that one where he talks to the animals, I can't even remember that. The one where he talks to the animals, I can't remember. Who cares? So he's got that. Now he's got Sherlock Holmes 3 lined up, and it'll be curious to see what they do with it. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this news? Do you like the announcement that we're getting Dexter Fletcher coming in to direct Sherlock Holmes 3? Do you not care about Sherlock Holmes 3 at all? Were you only interested if Guy Ritchie came back? Do you think, nah, this is a fresh new direction? Let me know what you guys think. Jump on down and leave your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to the 4th main topic today. And our 4th main topic today gets sent to us from Omar94, who writes, Elizabeth Banks and Warner Brothers are rebooting The Flintstones, as an adult comedy. Seth MacFarlane tried bringing Flintstones back, but failed. I think that was back in like 2011. Thoughts? I don't like it yet because I love the original Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Maybe when I see footage, I'll change my mind. I'm mixed with remakes and reboots. Sometimes they'll work based on what's relevant in the world or if there's a market for it. Other times they're just unnecessary because if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, the first thing I would say to that, Omar, is no film in history has ever been necessary. It's always funny to me when somebody says, that film's not necessary. No film ever has been necessary. If any film ever that's ever been made didn't get made, the world would have gone on. No movie is necessary. The only question is, this movie, whether it's an original, a reboot, a sequel, an adaptation, whatever, can this movie be entertaining? And can it be successful? Those are the only questions that you need to ask. Not is it necessary, not is it needed. No films ever are. The only questions you should ask is, could this movie be entertaining? And can it be successful? To me, those are the only 2 relevant questions. That's just me. You may have a different opinion, and that's fine. Your opinion is no less valid than mine. But the way I approach it is, can it be entertaining? Can it be successful? That's it. Will it deliver that experience? Will it be a good movie on our new list? That's all that matters. With Flintstones, I've got to admit, I was surprised when I saw this news. Now, my first thought, and I'm sure your first thought too, was, well, this must be a play for the new HBO Max, the new WB streaming service. But according to the reports, even though they're moving forward with this with Elizabeth Banks and her production company and Warner Brothers, as of right now, there's no exhibitor signed up for it. So that means it's not going to NBC. It's not going to HBO Max. Right now, they don't have any specific plan of destination for it, which tells me that it may not happen at all, but we'll keep our eyes on it. What about just in general the idea of doing a Flintstones adult primetime comedy? I'm intrigued. I mean, look, we got those kind of lame Flintstones live action movies back in the 80s and 90s, I believe. The one with Rick Moranis was in those, playing Barney Rubble. Rosie O'Donnell played Betty. I think John Goodman played Fred, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, those weren't very good. But I'll tell you what, I'm down. I'm down. Why not? Look, the original cartoon, and let's be honest here, a lot of people have never seen the Flintstones. As ridiculous as it is to think about that, there are a lot of people who've never watched a single episode of the Flintstones. This is a series that I believe ran from 1960 to 1966. I mean, before our time. Well, I mean, maybe some of you guys were around when that was out, but it's well before my time. And it's well before a lot of people's time. I think there's probably a lot of people never seen it. Plus, to do an adult take on it, I'm not talking R-rated, but to do an adult take on it in a modern context, it might be something we're taking a shot at. Look, if I'm the head of Warner Brothers right now, okay? Let's say I'm the head of the studio, I'm the head of Warner Media, and they come to me and say, hey, we want to relaunch Flintstones, we're going to do it with Elizabeth Banks Company, blah, blah, blah. Do I greenlight it? I'm not sure that I do, to be honest with you. Because I don't know if it's a relevant title anymore. And that feels sacrilegious to say. How dare you say Flintstones isn't relevant? Flintstones isn't relevant. So I'm not sure I greenlight it. But at the same time, I can be convinced. I think it's a property that does carry some nostalgia for a certain segment of the demographic. I think if you take the comedy, adult comedy, kind of more mature approach to it, there could be some potential there. And it could be something that works and is really fun. So while I'm not positive that I would greenlight it as the head of Warner Media, I could see the argument for doing it. And I think maybe it's worth taking a shot at. I'm at least interested. Am I jumping up and down with excitement for this thing? No. But am I intrigued? Yes. I'm also really curious to see where it's going to land. I still think, even though they're saying they don't know yet, this sounds to me like something that is going to be destined for the new HBO Max, the Warner Brothers streaming service. I think that's probably where it's going to end up, but I'm not sure. What do you guys think about this? Do you think it's worth taking a shot at a new adult-themed comedy Flintstones series? Do you think there's an audience for it? And if so, where do you think this thing's going to end up? Jump on down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right. With that down, let's move on to our final main topic today. And our final main topic today comes to us from Hector Gonzalez, who writes, "Hey John, love the show." Thank you so much, Hector. "I just heard that Storm Reid has joined the cast of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Actually, it's Suicide Squad 2, but whatever. This is great because I really liked her performance in A Wrinkle in Time. I'm so glad she's getting more roles in Hollywood like The Invisible Man. What do you think of it? Does it increase your excitement for the movie? Thanks and have a nice day." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, Storm Reid, who is the young girl who appeared in, she was the lead in Wrinkle in Time. Not a good movie, but I'll tell you what, she impressed me. She was quite good in it. On top of that, she recently did Ava DuVernay directed her in A Wrinkle in Time, but she made an appearance in When They See Us. And she's in that new Zendaya show as well, Euphoria. And she's got the upcoming Invisible Man as well. So she's a young actress who's got some moves happening. What's this whole thing about her being in Suicide Squad 2? Well, this comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood Reporter wrote this. "Storm Reid, the actress who starred in Wrinkle in Time and now appears in HBO's Euphoria, is joining the heavy-hitting cast of Warner Brothers' The Suicide Squad. James Gunn is directing the follow-up to his 2016 feature based on the DC Comics anti-heroes. Gunn's installment sees Idris Elba, John Cena, and David, I can't pronounce that name, Dastmalachipapa, star alongside returnees Margot Robbie, Joel Kinnaman, Jai Courtney, and Viola Davis." Now, the other thing that it says in this Hollywood Reporter story is that they seem to know that Storm Reid is going to play Idris Elba's daughter. So that's what we know at this point, that she's going to play his daughter. Nothing else beyond that. As a matter of fact, we really don't know much else about this movie beyond that. They're playing this pretty close to the vest. Now, you guys know that I am thrilled that James Gunn is directing Suicide Squad. We now have a guy who is actively making movies for the DCEU and for the MCU. I think that's fabulous. I think that is wonderful news, and I'm excited about it. And I think Suicide Squad is something that fits James Gunn very well. So how do I feel about Storm Reid? I'm going to say this. I'm indifferent about it right now because I really don't know much about the movie. I liked her quite a bit in Wrinkle in Time, even though I wasn't thrilled with the movie. I didn't like the movie, but I thought she was quite good in it. The reason I'm not going to say it makes me more excited is because I'm already pretty damn excited that they're doing another Suicide Squad with Idris Elba coming back, with James Gunn writing and directing it. I'm pretty much as excited as you can get for that movie. Adding a Storm Reid doesn't increase that. It certainly doesn't hurt it. It certainly doesn't hurt it. But it doesn't increase my excitement for it. She's still a young, inexperienced actress, but I think she's got a lot of upside. I think she's got a lot of upside. And what do I always say about these movies? It's never a mistake to add talent. I believe she's a talent. This is a good move. But then again, that may change once we get an idea about what the movie's about. I don't know anything about her role. I don't know how good of a fit she is for it. But still, good idea to add talent, and I think that's what they've done here. What do you guys think about this with the addition of Storm Reid to James Gunn's Suicide Squad? Does it increase your excitement? Does it decrease it? Does it do nothing for you at all right now? Jump down in the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right, guys. With all that out of the way, it's now time for us to go over and spend the rest of the show taking your live questions. So let's not waste any time and jump over and do that right now. All right. Our first live question today comes to us from Curtis Lopez, who writes, didn't expect Lion King to open on Rotten Tomatoes around 58. You and me both, brother. And again, it's one of those things where, hey, there are movies I don't like, but I can go, oh yeah, but I think there's going to be a bunch of people that do like it, but I thought it was bad. And I've come out of movies and go, wow, I really enjoyed it. I don't think everybody's going to enjoy it. I think there's going to be a bunch of people that don't like it, but I really enjoyed it. But sometimes there are movies that I come out of and go, I loved that movie. And I think everybody's going to love this movie. And that's what I thought with Lion King. I love it. Which is good because, again, even with me, Disney's been having a bit of a rough track record. Nutcracker was bad. Wrinkle in Time was bad. Dumbo was bad. I mean, it is. I really liked Aladdin, so that was good. But I really, really love Lion King. I love this new Lion King. Not the 94 perfection of the original animated, but I just thought it was wonderful and I loved it. No way did I expect 58. I didn't expect that before I saw the movie, and I certainly didn't expect it after seeing the movie. But hey, that's the beauty of film, guys. It's the subjectivity of it. I saw it one way, other people see it the other way. That's film, guys. That's the movie business, and that's what part of being a film fan is. Curtis Lopez follows up, writes, Mike and Elle, friends don't lie, except when I thought this exact same thing. Except when we lie to your face to ditch Dustin in season 3, episode 1, just so we can make out. Not a big spoiler. It's a inconsequential thing that happens in episode 1 of season 3. But you know, the big thing, friends don't lie. But the very first thing that we see Eleven and Mike do is lie to Dustin about why they want to shake off just so they can go make out. You're absolutely right, Chris. I'm glad I'm not the only one who recognized that because I totally saw that too. All right, we move on now. I'm Upset writes, what 2020 comic book film are you looking forward to the most? Black Widow. I don't know what BOP is. Wonder Woman 84, Morbius, Venom 2, Bloodshot, or New Mutants. Venom 2, surprisingly enough. I think my order out of that would be my most anticipated movie out of that list is Venom 2. I had a hell of a lot of fun with it. Very close to that would be Wonder Woman 84. You know, Patty Jenkins is Patty Jenkins, so I just trust Patty Jenkins. After that would probably be Morbius, then probably New Mutants, then Black Widow, then Birds of Prey, and then Bloodshot, if that actually happens. And I'm still not convinced we're going to get it, but whatever. But yeah, out of that list, for me, Venom 2 is the one I'm excited about the most. I just had a lot of fun with that. I love Wonder Woman 84 as well. That's why it's number 2 on my list. But yeah, those are two films I'm really excited to see. Isaac S. writes, Attack on Titan Season 3 is what Game of Thrones should have been. Absolutely amazing storytelling. You should check it out. Not really interested. I mean, I had a lot of people tell me about it. I've certainly read a bunch of I almost said Teen Titans. Certainly read a bunch of Attack on Titan, but I watched a little bit of it. Not my thing. Not my thing. And by the way, Game of Thrones is awesome. And its final season was awesome. I loved it. They had to rush a few things because they made the stupid decision to only have 6 episodes. I'll never understand that, but I thought it was awesome. Anyway, Just Too Tasty Good writes, which is the best upcoming actor between Miles Teller's 32 or 33 years old? He's not an upcoming actor. Miles Teller's been around for a while. And he's done a lot of high profile. So take him off that list. Miles Teller doesn't belong on that list. Timothy Chalamet, Lucas Hedges, or Tom Holland. Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet is the best actor on that list. Now, I know there's a lot of you yelling, no, it should be Tom Holland because he's Spider-Man. No, I love Tom Holland. Make no mistake about it, though. It's all subjective, but I'm just using the verbiage. Make no mistake about it. Timothy Chalamet is the best actor on that list. If you're taking Teller off and you're left with Timothy Chalamet, Lucas Hedges, who's also very good, Tom Holland, who is also very good. I love Tom Holland. Timothy Chalamet is the best actor on that list. It's actually, to me, it's not even close. The most purely talented performer with more tools in his belt than anybody else, it's Timothy Chalamet. He's already got 1 Academy Award nomination. He's going to get like 8 at some point. But yeah, to me, it's no question. It's not even close. Timothy Chalamet is the best. And that's no disrespect to Lucas Hedges, who I think is really good, and Tom Holland, who I adore. It's just that Timothy Chalamet right now is kind of he's kind of, as young as he is, he's in that category of scary talented. Like, I'm not saying he's Daniel Day-Lewis, but Timothy Chalamet has Daniel Day-Lewis kind of potential. Timothy Chalamet has Daniel Day-Lewis kind of potential. And Triple D, or Double DL, is the GOAT. He's the greatest actor of all time. He's the greatest that's ever done it. And I think Timothy Chalamet has that potential. I'm not saying he's going to be Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm not saying he's going to reach his potential. But I'm saying when you watch the movies he's in right now, him as an actor and as a performer, there's glimpses of Daniel Day-Lewis in him. And that's why, to me, that's an easy one. It's Timothy Chalamet. Chris Hamilton writes, hey, John, if you do fly to Baltimore, I joked about that. I'm not flying to Baltimore. I'll take you to lunch. I live in Maryland. The crab cakes are awesome. I'm actually not a seafood guy. I don't like seafood. Don't get me wrong. I'll have fish and chips. And I'll have salmon. And I'll have not the scary shrimp where you see the eyes on them, but shrimp that's in like stir-fry rice. I'll have that, but generally speaking, I'm not a seafood guy. I don't eat lobster or crab or oysters or anything, squid, blah, blah, blah. I don't eat any of that stuff. So if I get down there, maybe you can take me to lunch, but it won't be for crab cakes. No Quizada writes, have you seen Yesterday yet? It's so wonderful. Finally got around to seeing Yesterday. I thought it was pretty good. It didn't live up to its potential for me. It didn't hit the heights of what I kind of hoped for originally. Performances were solid, Lily James, but I thought it was all right. Okay, Draco Eris writes, I don't care about the score for Lion King on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm going to go see it on Thursday and Friday. The Lion King has made $13.4 million in China on one night. Yeah, it hit pretty big. It made $13.4 million in China on its first night. Now, to put that in perspective, that's more money than Toy Story 4 made in its entire opening weekend. $13.4 million on opening day in China is more than Toy Story 4 made in its entire opening weekend. That may or may not mean anything ultimately, but yeah, again, Draco, I just don't know what to do. Like, again, you hear me talk like this when it comes to Man of Steel. What were people looking for? Man of Steel is a freaking masterpiece of the genre. It's a masterpiece of the comic book genre. It's the top 10 greatest comic book films of all time. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. It's got depth. It's got character. It's got all that kind of stuff. And I just don't get it. And I respect it. It's all subjective. Everybody's going to see it differently. That's fine. But it's just one of those movies to me that I don't get how other people don't see the genius of this movie. And I feel that way right now about Lion King. That's how I feel about Lion King right now. It's like, I don't get it. What were people looking for? This movie's beautiful. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's got the feels. I don't get it. But other people saw it and had a different experience, and I respect that. And that is the beauty of film, man. That's the beauty of film. And I hope you enjoy yourself, Dragon. That's all I can say. Whenever anybody's going out to see a movie, I just hope they enjoy it. And I hope you have a good time, Draco. I hope it meets all your expectations, especially if you've already bought tickets for 2 showings. I really hope you don't come out of Thursday night show hating it, because then you got tickets for Friday that are useless to you. But I hope you have a good time, man. Let me know what you think about it once you do. All right. Echo writes, when will Star Wars Rise of Skywalker tickets? Who cares? Who cares? The movie's like 6 months away. Who cares at this point, Echo? Patience, buddy. You know when the movie's coming out, you'll get tickets when they come out. So, I mean, I'm excited for it too, Echo. I'm excited for it too, but who cares when the tickets go on sale at this point? All right. Anthony R. writes, I'll probably see Lion King on a day that I'm working, so just in case I don't like it, I can complain that I wasted a trip on the subway. Well, it's always good when you can plan accordingly, Anthony. Always good when you can plan accordingly. I just think you will like it. I mean, but then again, I thought all the critics would like it too. And clearly I was wrong. I thought all the critics would like it. It's not just that I liked it. I thought the other critics would like it too. And they didn't. So I can sit here and say that I think you're going to like it, but I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I came walking out of Lion King. I thought everybody's going to like this. Some may not think it's the greatest thing ever, but I think everybody's going to like this. Clearly, that is not the case. Clearly, I was dead wrong about that. It is what it is, but I hope it's always good, man, when you can already plan accordingly. And you, Anthony, you're taking a wide range view of that, and I can respect that, sir. All right, Coolsome XD writes, sorry, John, I just don't like the new Lion King CGI style. Hey, look, that can be for anything. Absolutely. I think it is the most phenomenal thing we've ever seen on screen. The CGI style, I mean. I remember watching Lion King, the second time I watched Lion King. I remember sitting there going, I wish I could take this movie, travel back to, 1985, and show a bunch of people in 1985 this Lion King, and see them call me liar and heretic when I tell them that it's all animated, that this isn't real footage, this is animated. It is simply the most remarkable technological achievement I've ever seen in film. It's ridiculous. Now, it's not flawless. There are a few moments in the film where you go, okay, now I can kind of feel it's animated. But for the most part, you forget you're not looking at real live action. It's crazy. But it's not going to be for everybody, and maybe it won't be for you. Fanjecture writes, revising yesterday's Lion King over-under, now at 175 million. That's closer. See, yesterday the over-under number was 205, and I took the under on that because 200 is just so big. Now that the reviews have come out, 175 is probably closer to where it's going to be. But you know what? I'll even take the under on 175. Not by much, but I'll take the under on 175 now that the reviews are out. I'll go under on that as well. Casinema Reviews writes, holy crap, that Stranger Things post-credit scene. You know, I heard everybody say, well, you got to watch the post-credit scene. It was fine. But I mean, it was nothing we didn't kind of guess or see before. So I'm not going to go into what it was, but I wasn't blown away by it. It's interesting, though. It was an interesting post-credit scene. Evelyn writes, Spidey 3 names suggestion. The companion video comes home. There you go, Evelyn. Canada Rock. By the way, I was supposed to do the companion video yesterday, but then I realized I had 2 films I had to see last night instead of 1. I had dinner plans with Ann, and I just didn't have the time to do it. So I will get to that damn follow-up because it's not. I don't even have to do multiple. I can do it in one thing. All the Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Far From Home companion questions that I have to do, I can get it done in one video. So, damn it, I'm going to get it done today. I really hope I'm going to get it done today. So hang on, it's going to get done today. All right, Canada Rocks writes, sorry, going to miss the show because I'm off to see Crawl. Oh, dude, have fun. Still in the high 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. Love your quick post-movie videos. Please do some more in the future. Yeah, so last night I just decided, I don't know what prompted me, but I came out of Stuber, and obviously I did my full review today, but I just did a quick 1 minute. Here's my first reaction standing outside the movie theater. This is my first quick reaction to this movie. And then I did the same thing for Crawl. And apparently you guys like that. I like doing it. It was kind of fun. So I think I will do that from now on. I'll see a movie, I'll come out of theater, do a quick 30-second to 60-second quick initial thought review, and then do the full review later. But anyway, hope you have a good time at Crawl Canada. Either Audrey writes, one of two. This week's anime recommendation. Genre, slice of life. My roommate is a cat. Sociophobic writer Suraru ends up adopting a stray cat, which ends up inspiring his next novel series. Through his experiences with the cat, he learns step by step how to adapt to the outside world. That is interesting to me. And I'll tell you why I find that really interesting either, because I just recently saw this wild news, BBC news story on YouTube that I don't know the exact word for it, being a hermit. There's actually an epidemic in Japan of people who do not leave their home. Do not go outside. They do not leave their home at all. Now, there's always been, I can't remember the name of that condition here, but apparently it's almost to epidemic proportions in Japan that there are people just don't go outside their apartment or their home. They never leave, which is crazy. So anyway, that fascinated me when I saw that. And now hearing this, it sounds like it might be a little bit of a play on that. Is that what it's called? Sociophobia? Is that what the condition is called? Anyway, that sounds intriguing to me. That, normally your anime recommendations really are for recommendations for everybody else because I'm not a big anime guy. But I'll tell you what, that is one I may check out because I find the whole premise really fascinating. All right, thanks for sharing that, Either. I appreciate that, man. All right. Clay Woodley writes, despite the reviews, I'm still excited for The Lion King. You should be. I still think it will hit $1 billion it'll hit $1 billion in its sleep. Don't worry about that. I was wondering if it could hit $2 billion. The $1 billion mark is not going to be a problem. The thing was the $2 billion mark. Anyway, I still think it will hit $1 billion simply because of nostalgia. But with the lukewarm reviews, do you think $2 billion is out of play? Yeah, I do. See, this is a great example of, I don't think that the bad reviews out there are going to kill Lion King. Not at all. It's going to be a huge blockbuster success. But will it reach its full box office potential? I don't think so. Not now. I don't think it will now. Now I think we're looking at, maybe I thought its ceiling before would be $2.1 billion. Now I think its ceiling is maybe $1.6 billion, which is ridiculously, monstrously huge. It's still great. But I'm thinking right now, Clay, and we'll see how the audience responds to it. I'm thinking right now $2 billion might be out of play. I hope I'm wrong, but I think billion in its sleep, $2 billion, I got to doubt it now. I at this point now I have to doubt it, but hopefully I'm wrong. All right, Ben C writes, how do I identify the movie's first, second, and third act? Well, I mean, that's a huge, going into the act structure. Honestly, Ben, the best thing I can say is, because I just can't go into it in full depth here, just go Google that. It's really, you can just tell. Just think about any movie, and if you really sit down and think about it, you can feel where the acts are separate. You can tell when really the intro, the opening of the film, the establishment is done. Now you're to the main body of the story. Now we turn the corner from the main body of the story into heading towards the resolution. You can actually pick it up kind of naturally. But again, it is reading about the third act structure, the 3-act structure is kind of fascinating. I would recommend doing some reading on it because it really is fun. All right. Green Arrow 7 writes, guess Lion King Rotten Tomatoes score based on the tweets during embargo. Look at how amazing the visuals are. Huge red flags for me. No mention of narrative. You're 100% wrong, Green Arrow. I listed a bunch of the early social media reactions, and a lot of them talked about how great overall, how funny and warm and how much heart the movie had. So I don't know where you're getting that from. I heard a couple of other people say that. It's like all the initial reactions are talking about is how good it looked. And I'm like, I'm looking at the early social media reactions right now. And some of them do talk about how good it looks, but a lot of them are talking about how funny it is, how they cried in it, how they cheered in it, how they thought the narrative was great, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm simply saying that was a part of the first social media reaction, was a lot of people talked about this other stuff. But again, I think it comes down to that the people who didn't like it weren't as inclined to jump on board and start writing things out. I think all the people that we read their social media responses, they're part of the 59% that are saying, yes, this is a good movie. But apparently, clearly, that's not everybody. There's a whole hell of a lot of people out there, because this movie isn't just looks amazing. This movie is great. It's got heart. It's fun. It's got great humor. It is worthy of the Lion King name. Now, again, hell of a lot of critics disagree. That's why I say this is my new Man of Steel. You know, you guys know how crazy I am about Man of Steel, and just so many of the critics disagree, and I don't get it. Same thing here with Lion King. I think this movie is freaking wonderful. I think it's wonderful. So it's my new Man of Steel. I think it's wonderful, but a lot of critics disagree. But anyway, it is. But the social media stuff, there was a lot of mention in the social media stuff about the heart, the humor, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't just the visuals. Anyway, Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, I'm not a fan of Satan's scrotum either. I remember I said something about Satan's scrotum, but I can't remember what the context was. I'm glad that's what stuck out to you, Suthius. All right, Michael Morgan writes, John, have you watched Midnight's Edge, Have you watched Midnight's Edge Spider-Man in the MCU video? I don't even know what Midnight's Edge is. Anyway, they give a well-researched reason as to why we got MJ, not Mary Jane. Anything created by the MCU movies won't be usable in the Sony movies. Well, first of all, generally speaking, I don't do videos about other people's editorials. All right. Like sometimes you get people, John, did you see what this guy said on YouTube? Do a video about what this guy said. It's like, I don't do that. I'm not here to talk about what other people think. I'm not here to talk about somebody else giving their opinion. I'm here to talk about the movies and the movie news. That's what I'm here to talk about. In the same way that I don't want other people doing videos about what my opinion is. I think that's a waste of time and shows that you don't have the talent to do your own original stuff. Whatever. So I don't do that. So I don't know who Midnight's Edge is. That doesn't mean they're not fantastic. I'm just saying I'm not aware of them. So there's that. But I was told in no uncertain terms that the reason they went with MJ instead of Mary Jane was simply because they just wanted to do something different and new. Because there's only so much different and new you can do with Spider-Man. He's your core character. So they really wanted to go in a different direction because we've had so many incarnations of Spider-Man just in the last few years. And they just really wanted to go in a new direction. Now, from what you're saying, yeah, it's like what I explained before with public domain property. Anybody out there is allowed to make a Thor movie. You are allowed, without any fear of copyright, you are allowed to go out and make your own movie called Thor. And based on the Norse mythology, because that's public domain. What you can't do, and I explained this on the show just earlier this week, what you can't do is use anything in your movie that was created by Disney for their Thor incarnation. Anything that's in the actual Norse mythology of Thor, you can use in your movie, and you can use anything new that you make up. What you can't do is use anything that they've create for their movie, right? So anything that's new and created originally by Disney is Disney's. That's just the same thing as public domain doctrine. So that's not a big thing there. However, I was told pretty clearly that they wanted to do that with MJ from the beginning, not because of rights, not because of anything like that at all. I was told very clearly they just wanted to go really in a different direction with the love interest, something that we haven't seen before. But still, they named her MJ as a wink and an acknowledgement and as an homage to the original MJ character, Mary Jane Watson. So anyway, the basic principle of what you're saying there, Michael, is that anything that Disney does with Spider-Man that they make up is something that now belongs to them. That's true. But I've been told that was not their motivation. I was told that the thing was clear that, because remember, then they could have done that with anybody, right? They didn't need, they can bring in their own J. Jonah Jameson if they want, but call him Jesse Jordan Jacobson. Still call Triple J, and they could just do that. But they didn't, because that's not what their point is. They didn't want to do something completely different with J. Jonah. So if they were to have J. Jonah Jameson in the movie, that's not the direction they would go in. If they wanted to, they could just call, Harry Osborn, H.O., Harold Osborna, if they wanted to, because then that's their character. Harold Osborna is our character, but that's not what they were doing. If that was really their motivation, and again, I haven't seen this video, so I don't know if I'm addressing the points in there or not, and that's irrelevant to me. The basic thing, though, is I think their motivation was not so they could keep a certain character. It's because they wanted to do something really new that we hadn't seen before in relation to Spider-Man. And I think that was their motivation. That doesn't take away from the basic truth of that one assertion, though, that since it is a new character that they created for that movie, that you could make an argument it belongs to them. However, that movie, Spider-Man Far From Home, is not a Marvel movie. It is a Sony movie. So, actually speaking, anything Marvel puts in Far From Home technically would 50% be owned by Sony anyway, because it is their movie. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people think that Spider-Man Far From Home is a Marvel movie and Venom is a Sony movie. Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home are still Sony movies. But anyway, that's all kind of irrelevant again, because it goes back to the point that I was told that the main reason, what is insisted to me was the main reason they did all that with MJ and the whole, how they handled the Zendaya character was just to do something completely different. But they knew they couldn't make her Mary Jane Watson, because they made her Mary Jane Watson and did her as a completely different character. It would have pissed people off. So what they're saying is it's a new character, still with the initials MJ, to pay homage to the original, but they're free now to do it any way they want. Any way they want. And I think that's the main key there. But anyway, I'm sure it's an interesting video, wherever that was. I'm sure it's an interesting video, and I'm not saying anything bad about it because I haven't seen it. I'm just saying that's just what I've been told at any rate, Michael. Anyway, interesting stuff. Thanks for bringing that up, man. All right. Jeremy Sneed writes, if I told you a week ago Crawl would have had a higher score on Rotten Tomatoes than Lion King, well, I said that exact same thing earlier in this show. If you would have told me a month ago that this movie, Crawl, about alligators in your house versus Lion King, I would have said you're crazy. And yet, here we are. And yet, here we are, man. All right, Kylo Ren and Stimpy writes, I would love to see Vincent D'Onofrio reprise his role as Kingpin in the next Spider-Man film. Not going to happen. Doesn't Sony share the rights to him with Disney? I don't think so. I'm not really clear on, look, there's so many divisions of rights between Sony and Marvel when it comes, first of all, there's live action. Then it's completely different rules when it comes to their animated. Then so it's such a convoluted web, no pun intended. It's such a convoluted web that it's hard to say, but I don't think there's any clear distinction on, I don't know that Sony can use, I don't know. I don't know if Sony can use, certain characters in their animated thing, but they can't do a live action with them and vice versa. I think it's a really complex issue, Kylo, that I can't just give a definitive. And anybody who tells you they know the answer, they're lying because they don't. The intricacies of that deal is a little bit hard to know at this point, especially when you get into those minute details. Jack Dries writes, I got opening night tickets to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 35 millimeter. You know what? I saw the trailer for that twice last night because they played it both in front of Crawl and in front of Stuber. I gotta tell you guys, I'm really excited for that film. That is just looking more and more great to me. Every time I see a new trailer, every new scene I see in their promo gets me more and more excited. I cannot wait to see it. I'm glad you got your tickets, man. All right, Suthius writes, in the past year, I'm finding myself buying more and more digital content. Me too, for the past 10 years, actually. I still buy physical, but only for my kids to watch with the car's DVD system. Smart man. They're still young. No tablets for them. But you know what? Just as an aside, Suthius, I had a friend of mine has kids, and you can buy some really good Android tablets for like $150. Like there are some, like not the cream of the crop Android tablets that you're spending like $300 or $400 for, but you can get some really decent Android tablets for like under $200. And what my buddy did was, he's got one of those vehicles that has its own built-in Wi-Fi in the car. Anyway, he's got these tablets and he made these mounts for them behind the seats, behind the front seats. So they're both back there. And so now he can just put on Netflix for his kids. And his kids just watch Netflix or Google Play Store or their Apple or whatever, wherever they get their movies from, they can just stream now in there. Now, the problem with that, and where your system has an advantage, is the fact that, you know, if you get into a spot where your car's Wi-Fi is not getting adequate signal, then all of a sudden you're not playing anything, right? That can happen. If you got a disc, it'll play no problem. So there's still some advantages from that. But the bottom line here is, Suthius, well, I think that's awesome. We are getting close now to a part where you can just put in a couple cheap tablets or monitors in the back and just stream whatever it is you want them to see instead of having to have a physical disc. It's coming. But again, there are still advantages to the way you're doing it that I think are pretty relevant right now. So that's awesome. Anthony R. writes, I really miss the Jedi Order. I sometimes reread the old EU books and see how Luke's new order flourished. I think of what could have been. Oh, well. Yeah, look, I'm one of these Star Wars fans that I was happy that they did away with the EU because, honestly, the EU was never canon anyway. Like, I know you know this, Anthony, but a lot of people still seem to believe that they took all the EU stuff, that's extended universe. They took all the Star Wars EU stuff, that was the stuff in the novels and all that kind of stuff, and they removed it from canon. The reality was it was never in canon. Remember, Lucasfilm used to have this really awful, convoluted canon hierarchy. And like, to me, that's stupid because you're not pregnant. You're not sort of pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. There's no sort of pregnant. You either are pregnant or you're not pregnant. It's just that simple. Just that simple. There's no middle ground there. And I feel the same way about canon. Something's either canon or it's not. And Lucasfilm used to have this really terrible, convoluted mess of a canon hierarchy. There was the ultimate level of canon, which was true, authoritative canon that they called G canon. And the reason they put the G in front of it is because that meant George. And what was G canon? The movies was G canon. But then they had like 7 other levels of canon that comic books and the novels and different things would slide into. Oh, this is, A canon. This is X canon. This is, W canon, whatever. Those weren't the real names of them, but there was G level canon. There's all these other levels of canon. All that really means was there was canon, which is G canon, and everything else isn't canon. You could give it all these levels. And what I appreciated what Disney did when they took over Star Wars was they got rid of that totally awful convoluted system. And they just said was, all the things that have always been true canon, that's canon. Everything else that has never been true canon isn't canon. There it is. And I like that. Now, unfortunately, Disney in the last year or two, more and more we've seen them start to slide in that. When Disney first took it over, and I don't want to go too deep into this, I've already ranted too much on this, but when Disney first took over, they made this bold claim that everything we make now is going to be canon. If it's in a comic, it's canon. If it's in a novel, it's canon. If it's in one of our TV shows, it's canon. By the way, one of our new novels, not one of the novels from the old days, but from moving forward, all the comics we put out, all the books we put out, all the games we put out, they even said it first, all the movies we put out, all of it is canon. Everything is canon and in continuity. That was a bold thing to try. But we've already seen that start to unravel. People pointing out, hey, wait a minute, in your new novel you said this, but that contradicts what it is in the movie. Well, yes, everything's canon except for when it contradicts with the movie. No. No exceptions. You're either canon or you're not canon. You either tell me that everything in your books are canon or they're not. Because the moment you start doing, oh, well, accept this, oh, and then accept that, oh, and then maybe you with an exception over here. Now we're back to that whole G-level canon hierarchy nonsense that we used to have. Anyway. I went off on a rant there, Anthony. Getting back to your actual question. I'm okay. I'll be honest with you. A lot of those old books with Luke's new Jedi Order and stuff like that didn't work for me. Some of them did. A lot of them didn't. But I also am yearning to see a return to the Jedi Order. whether it's going to be the Order of Skywalkers, like Rise of Skywalker, whether they're going to be called Jedi or not, whatever. I am yearning like you to see a return to that. So we'll see where they go. Emad writes, yesterday you were talking about movie pet peeves. Mine is when our hero gets caught and the main villain decides to leave the room before making sure his men actually kill him. John Wick. Yes, that's a horrible one. Horrible one. You know, that happens all the time. Actually, it happens in Spider-Man Far From Home. For those of you who haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but you guys will know what I'm talking about. There's something like that happens, right? Something like that happens. And it's like, I complained about it in the spoilers. I'm like, how could so-and-so think so-and-so when this and this were clearly this? That made no sense. And I actually complained about it as well. I'm completely with you, Imad. I am completely with you. That is something that does drive me crazy. And we see it over and over and over again in even some of the best movies and best TV series, right? Like they don't finish the job or they don't make sure the job is finished. When if this was real, they totally would have made 100% sure that the job was finished. So I'm completely with you on that. Well pointed out. Well pointed out, sir. All right. Tyler Yeats writes, Midsommar was pretty bizarre. Yeah. I still haven't seen it, but my friend described the whole movie to me because I didn't really care. And I gotta say, I still want to see it because it is so bizarre. That story is so crazy and so bizarre and so weird that I just gotta see how it plays out on screen. Suthius writes, so there's this trailer for Batista's Netflix stand-up special, and many sites seem to think it's real, but I watched it on Kimmel, and to me, it was clearly a comical gag for the show, nothing more. I'll be honest with you, Suthius, I have not seen that. I haven't seen any of the reports either. I will say this, though. I cannot picture for the life of me. Dave Bautista doing stand-up comedy. I can't see it. So I have never heard of this. You pointing this out and bringing this up right now is the first time I'm hearing of this. But I can't for the life of me imagine him doing that. That just doesn't equate or compute. And if you saw it on Kimmel, then it probably was a gag. But I'll say this. If it's real, oh my God. I mean, seeing Dave Bautista do stand-up comedy, that doesn't strike me as being what would be his forte. But who knows? But you're probably right, Suthius. You're probably bang on the money with that. All right, Jay Bling writes, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat. Another great Rip Torn dodgeball line. Thanks for reading this one, I hope. Yeah, oh God, he has so many great lines in that movie. Is it necessary to drink my own urine? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. You couldn't hit a boat if you fell out of water. Or if you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat. Man, I was so sad to hear about that. We of course talked about it on the John Campea Show the other day. The passing of Rip Torn, who I just think is great. And I was so sad to hear about his passing. I'm sure a lot of you guys were too. But and guys, listen, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched him on the Larry Sanders Show, watch Rip Torn and the Larry Sanders Show. He's really, really funny on that. So thanks for bringing that up, Jay Bling. All right, Robert Perez writes, Area 51 is in Nevada. Where is Area 1 through 50? I remember, I thought about that once too, Robert. This is a great question. We want answers. Estevel writes, I love Crawl, one of the most intense horror films. Dude, intense is a great word. Because it's stressful. Once they get the movie going about 10, 15 minutes into it, the entire rest of the film, it's just tense and you're stressed and it's beautifully orchestrated that way. Massive Jada writes, Guy Ritchie's style is crucial to these Sherlock movies. I don't know that I agree with that, Massive. And I'm a big Guy Ritchie fan. And I like what he brought to the Sherlock Holmes movies. I don't know that his style is crucial to them, though. I think he did a great job with them. He's one of my kind of my pet favorite actors out there, or favorite directors, out there. I really dig Guy Ritchie, but I don't know that I'd say that his style is crucial to it. So I don't know if I agree with you on that one. Robert Perez writes, as a Star Wars myself, it probably meant fan. As a Star Wars fan myself, I'm curious, what was the feeling like walking in and around Galaxy's Edge? I can't wait to go. Thanks for being you. Well, thank you for writing that in, Robert. It's great. It's magical. I love being at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. However, I will say this, and I actually put up a tweet about this the other day. I've been to Galaxy's Edge twice now. And I love it. I do. I love it. And their main ride isn't even open yet. It doesn't open until like January or February, maybe December, something like that. So their main ride isn't even open yet. And I really enjoy Galaxy's Edge. I do. But let me say this. After my second visit, I really felt the absence of original trilogy stuff. Now, Galaxy's Edge is supposed to be this remote outpost. Like when you walk into Galaxy's Edge, you are walking into a Star Wars location. It's this outpost somewhere in the Outer Rim, and something Spire. I can't remember the exact name of it, but that's where you are. And it's set in the new era. It's set in the First Order era, or the era of the new movies. So that's what they immerse you in. And they do a great job with it. They do. It's a wonderful experience. I walk in there and I feel like I'm walking into a world in the Star Wars universe. But I don't know that I feel like I'm walking into Star Wars. Like I'm absolutely immersed and walking into a world in the Star Wars universe. Definitely. And I love it. From the sounds they have playing as you're walking through the streets, the cantina is great and fun. The Millennium Falcon ride is wonderful. The droid shop is great. There's just all the details they put around the place. It's great. But, and I don't know how they would have done this, but after my second visit, and I'm going to go back again this Sunday, me and Ann and our buddy Sol and Ryan, we've all decided we want to go back again this Sunday. So we're going to go back again this Sunday. I really felt even more the second time around the lack of original trilogy stuff. And I think that would have made it even better. I think that would have made it even better. I still like it as it is, but I think it would have been better had they incorporated more original trilogy stuff. That's just my thought. But I still think you're going to have a great time. I'm going back for a third time. Dude Man writes, I like that name. My favorite Spider-Man movies is Spider-Man 2002, Far From Home, Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Verse, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2. You agree with any? I mean, it doesn't matter if I agree. It's all subjective. I actually listed just on a show the other day, to me, the order. The best Spider-Man movie ever made is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The next is Spider-Man 2. The next is Spider-Man Far From Home. The next is Spider-Man Homecoming is number 3. Spider-Man Far From Home is number 4. Then The Amazing Spider-Man 1. Then The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Oh, and where's Spider-Man 1 in there? I can't remember what. But anyway, to me, the two best Spider-Man movies ever made are Into the Spider-Verse and then Spider-Man 2. Marvel still has not made a Spider-Man movie as good as those two, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Everybody will have a different order, but that's what I think are the two best. Suthius writes, Rise of the Resistance rides opens in December, January. Yeah, I knew it was December, January, February, somewhere around there. That's the main ride. That's going to be the main ride at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. And I'm stoked for it. I can't wait. Because I already love Galaxy's Edge. I do. But then them opening a new ride is going to make it a whole new experience again. Can't wait. All right, Robert Perez writes, I like your theory about the Empire. He's patient. Yeah, so we talked about that the other day, about the Sith troopers. And I said, hey, look, Palpatine and the Sith in general have always been very patient. So Palpatine may not have just come back alive now. He may have been alive the whole time and just laying low. Patiently building up his forces, blah, blah, and ready to spring it on the universe again. We'll see if that's what it turns out to be. Don Wilson writes, hey, John, how many times have you been to Galaxy's Edge now? Got to have that juicy shack meat. Thanks and take care. I have been there twice so far. Going back a third time this week and excited about, I'll say this though, the food in Galaxy's Edge, the food at Downtown Disney, which is what you go through to get into Disneyland, Downtown Disney, which anybody can go to anytime. It's not the park. It's just downtown. You can go visit Downtown Disney. The food in Downtown Disney is amazing. The food in Disneyland, not so good. Not good. There's this one great restaurant called Blue Bayou that I really love. It's my favorite restaurant there. It's fantastic. It sits right on where the Pirates of the Caribbean ride goes through. The Pirates of the Caribbean, as you're on the boat in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, it goes right through the restaurant. It's wonderful. I love eating there, but everything else in Disneyland, the food sucks. The food in Galaxy's Edge is not good. I'm not going to say it sucks because they have a couple things that are all right. I do love the blue milk, but for the most part, the food is as in everything else in Disneyland. The food inside is actually not all that good. Jesse Lopez writes, is the Gears of War movie still happening? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've heard an update since Gears of War 4 release. Well, actually, it was just a few weeks ago. The producer of the upcoming Gears of War movie did give an update. He said, just so everybody knows, it's not going to be an exact storyline from any of the Gears of War movies. It's kind of like an alternate universe Gears of War thing. They're going to be implementing their own story. So I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's just like a month ago that they put that story out. So everything appears to still be in motion. I don't know where they're at. But yeah, again, there was a news story about just a couple of weeks ago where the producer was giving that clarification on that. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Pool of Dead writes, do you think we'll get a Phase 4 reveal at Hall H? I think we're going to get a part of Phase 4 reveal. I do not believe Marvel is going to do like a 12 film announcement because they got bit in the ass and embarrassed by that before. Because remember, they announced Inhumans and then Inhumans got canceled. And then we've seen DC announce all these movies and then 8 of them get canceled. I think they're going to talk about Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Black Panther 2, and Doctor Strange 2. I think those are the 5 they'll probably talk about. I don't think they're going to give like a full 10 film or 11 or 12 film or long range plan. I don't think they're going to do that. O+98 writes, if the Joker movie is a success with critics and audiences, would you consider this a third win for Walter Hamada, even though it's not a DCU movie? Yes, because from everything that we've been told, this Joker movie does fall under Walter Hamada. He runs all the DC stuff. It's not just DCEU. It's everything that has to do with DC. He's running that. So yes, if it's a big win, and let's be honest, O+, it's still an if. The movie looks amazing. I cannot wait for it. But if it's a win, it's another win for Walter Hamada. And don't forget, we got Wonder Woman, 84 coming after that. So we could be looking at 4 wins in a row. Aquaman, huge success. Shazam was fantastic. Hopefully this Joker works out to be as good as we think it can be. And then Wonder Woman 84. That would be theoretically 4 wins in a row, which would be really great for them. All right. I don't get likes rights. Marvel's going to be auctioning Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Iron Fist suits and props in August. Just another nail in the coffin for those shows. Oh, no, that's completely irrelevant. That means nothing. You know how long it would take them just to remake the costumes if they needed it? Nothing. None. Now, those shows are dead. I've been telling you guys that from day one. Those shows are dead. They're done. They're gone. But I'm just saying, auctioning off costumes means nothing. That means nothing. They could have exact replicas of those, the exact new versions of those costumes made tomorrow. So it's not a thing. If they're auctioning these things off, nothing, that doesn't mean anything, even though I think it was already a foregone conclusion that the shows are dead. But don't think that them auctioning off costumes means anything. It really doesn't. Carlos Sosa writes, hey, John, will you be attending D23 this year? I believe so. Me and Chris Carr just submitted our press applications. I got invited. They wrote to me and said, hey, are you interested in coming? Please fill out this form, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, sure, I'll fill out the form. So I filled out the form. I think if I do get approved, which I suspect I'll get approved, and if Chris gets approved, then I think we will probably go and cover D23 this year. Chris Warden writes, in my opinion, the critics were wrong about Dumbo and Aladdin, as I love both films, so I'm still looking forward to seeing Lion King. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I got to admit, I do agree with them on Dumbo. I didn't like it myself, but it's all subjective. It's all subjective. I'm sure there's 1,000 films where you and the critics in general agree. I'm sure there's a bunch of them that you and the critics don't agree, but that's the nature of film. I didn't like it, but I did adore Aladdin. I think Lion King's better than Aladdin, but I adored Aladdin. I thought it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. But remember, though, I think Aladdin, what did we say it had? Like a 57%? Let me just pull up that chart again. Did Aladdin have like a... Yeah, 57. So remember, the majority, although very slim, the majority of critics liked it, just like the majority of critics like Lion King. It's just there's a lot of them that don't. But yeah, man, I think you're going to like it. But I thought all the critics were going to like it too, and I was clearly wrong. So maybe I'm wrong about you liking it. I hope you do, though. I hope you have a good time, man. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Ryan Lohner writes, where do we go? Ryan Lohner writes, fun fact, Patty Jenkins and original Wonder Woman Linda Carter have the same birthday, July 24th, which I know because that is fascinating. that almost feels kind of cosmic, which, by the way, happy early birthday, Ryan. I know it's 12 days away, but just in case I forget when the day comes, happy early birthday to you, my friend. That is that almost feels like cosmic powers at work there. So Patty Jenkins, for those of you who don't know, is the director of Wonder Woman and the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984. And the original Linda Carr's same birthday. I love it when you guys send in these really interesting just factoids. I don't know why I'm a sucker for those. I think those are great. So thank you for sharing that, Ryan. All right, next up. Ryan follows up and writes, some other July 24th birthdays. Kristen Chenoweth. Oh, I like her, actually. Jennifer Lopez. Summer Glau. Oh, I love Summer Glau. Dam Hedaya. I honestly don't know who that is. Chris Sarandon. Anna Paquin. Gus Van Sant. And Mara Wilson. I don't know who Mara Wilson is. That is a pretty stock birthday. You know what? I just had a thought. Wouldn't it be interesting if every day of the John Campea Show we did a celebrity birthdays today and listed them? That sounds like a lot of work. I thought that would be a good idea. Yes, we're going to do that. But then I just thought about, it's like, do I really need to add to my workload every day? Maybe not. But I still found that fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. All right. Epic Berserker writes, I have my ticket for Inhuman film. Oh, is today the day? Hold on a second. Let me look this up. Because we were just talking about how they had Inhumans. Was today the day for the Inhumans movie? Hold on a second. Let me just look that up. I can't confirm off the top of my head if that is true. But yes, no, it's true. It's so funny that I was just mentioning, remember, today was the day that Inhumans was supposed to come out in theaters. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find this and pull this up. See if I can get this here. I'm not sure that I can. I think maybe I can. Hold on a second. Yep, here we go, guys. Here we go. Inhumans. Oh, no. November 2nd? Maybe today wasn't the day it was supposed to be released. Or maybe that's the television series, the graphic for the television series that I got there. Oh, well, whatever. But no, I'm seeing reports elsewhere that, yes, today was the day that Inhumans is supposed to come out. There you go. Hope everybody's looking forward to it. So excited. Just to go along with your Flash tickets. NPE94 writes, I've seen photorealistic animals talk in Homeward Bound. They just stick voices on real animals. Without Disney's animation style, Lion King is nothing. No. I mean, that's cool if your opinion, and clearly you haven't seen the movie yet. But I 100% disagree. You're entitled to your opinion, and I respect that you have your opinion. Your opinion is no less valid than mine. But I'm going to staunchly disagree with that. As somebody who's seen the movie twice, I'm just going to staunchly disagree with you. Because also, yeah, the talking style in Homeward Bound and movies like that looks silly. I mean, we accept them because of what they are, but it just comes across as silly. The way they do it just feels like if they were going to talk, that's how it would look. That's what Lion King does. And I think it just brings a different level to it that I thought was great. Not everybody else is, though, NPE. Not everybody else is. But I personally think it's great. NPE writes, follows up with, saw Spider-Man, meh, just more of the same fresh off the Feige production line, waste of $12. Saw Midsommar, wow, that's a real movie made by an artist. It all depends on what you, first of all, I disagree. I thought this was a very different kind of Spider-Man movie. I thought this was really quite good. And not my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think there are 3 other Spider-Man movies that were better. I think Into the Spider-Verse was better. I think Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's, was better. And I think the original Homecoming was better. But I thought it was really quite good. Midsommar, I don't know. Like, you can say made by an artist, but that's not always a good thing. Look at that movie. What was it? Mother? Hold on a second. Let me just double check that. The one with Jennifer Lawrence. That movie, definitely made by an artist. I mean, Darren Aronofsky directed that thing, and that movie is a piece of art. But it was also insufferable garbage. Just insufferable garbage. It's all subjective. Some people watched it and liked it. I respect that. But for me, absolute 100% insufferable garbage, even though it's clearly a piece of art. But just because something is art or artistic doesn't necessarily mean that it's good, or that people would or should enjoy it. Again, now, I gotta be careful here because I haven't seen Midsommar yet. I just had my friend sit down with me and just tell me the entire plot of the movie. And I'm like, okay, that sounds weird. And that's why we're hearing from a lot of people that they don't like it. A bunch of people do. And that's the best thing about movies, the subjectivity of it. But whereas I found Spider-Man really fun, engaging, a lot of cute, the quirkiness to it, the inner character dynamics were wonderful and charming and just a lot of fun. And I had issues with Far From Home. I did. But hey, that's the beautiful thing about the films, NPEs. We all look at these films and we get different experiences with them. Yours were different than mine, and that's something to be celebrated. All right. Nathan W. writes, hey, John, was wondering if you've ever seen 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. Yes, we talked about it just about a month or two ago, actually. One of my favorites, but I feel like nobody else has seen it. I did see it, and I got to tell you, I didn't like the film. And I remember at the time when it came out, I think I was still doing the movie blog at the time. So this is going back a ways. I was still doing the movie blog at the time. And I didn't dig it. And I remember because I really liked Antonio Banderas at the time. And I like kind of the mythology around it. But yeah, for me, it didn't work. But you know what? You're not alone. I got a buddy of mine he lives in Calgary now, but used to live in Saskatoon when I used to live there. And this buddy of mine loves 13th Warrior. Like, absolutely one of his all-time favorite movies. And he and I would debate about that one all the time, but he like passionately loved that movie. And it's just, there was actually, you know what? It's true. That movie is one of the films that to me really helped me define my understanding of the subjectivity of film because, me and my friend, we often share a lot of the same film opinions and I respect his opinion of film. He actually works in the film industry. And I remember thinking, I'd just be like, how can you see something good in this movie? It's so bad. And it was those discussions that really became a pivotal point in me forming my whole understanding of the subjectivity of film. It's like, here we are, two guys who often agree on the same movie and having completely opposite feelings of this one particular movie. Hence the subjectivity of film. It was a great example of that. So you are not alone, Nathan. You are in good company. I just had a different experience with it, unfortunately. Epic Berserker writes, do you think the scores for Lion King will damage Lion King's overall box office? Yes, we've already kind of covered that. Or will it be another Aladdin situation? Thank you for answering. Well, see, a lot of people forget. If something does great, they just think that means bad reviews had no effect. It did. You know who knows that? The studios. They talk about it all the time. The studios understand this. Like, Aladdin has made over $900 million. But had it also gotten the reviews I feel it deserved, if it had gotten good reviews, enough good reviews like I feel it deserved, this movie would have already crossed the $1 billion mark. So that's why I was saying earlier, do I think Lion King will be affected by the negative reviews? Yes. But to a certain degree. It's not going to suddenly make only $200 million. No, it's going to make tons of money. It's going to be a huge blockbuster, but it won't make as much as it had the potential of making. I think the same goes true of Aladdin. Aladdin still made $900 million, but man, if it had also had great reviews on top of all that, it would have been into the $1 billion mark already. Not a night and day difference, but an impact. And I think people forget that and they overlook that. They just see, oh, the movie did well. That means... Or a movie did badly. That means the good reviews didn't help. Well, yeah, because it probably would have made less money if it didn't get good reviews. Oh, that movie made tons of money. Guess the bad reviews didn't hurt it. Well, no, the bad reviews did have an impact on it, but it didn't change it from night to day. It had an impact, just not like it didn't change the overall fate of it. That's all. And that's how I kind of see it. But yes, I do think the bad reviews will have an effect on Lion King's box office. Do I think it'll suddenly turn it from a hit into a flop? No, it's going to be a big, massive hit, but it would have made more. And that's kind of how I see it. Opium versus RNG just sends in a super chat with a handshake. Well, thank you for that, Opium. I appreciate that, man. Curtis Lopez writes, it seems like Disney stopped paying critics. Yeah, imagine that. I guess back when was it? Wrinkle in Time. I guess back when Wrinkle in Time came out, that's when they stopped paying critics. Everything else other than that was when they were paying critics. LOL. All right, thanks for that, man. Catman writes, I saw Crawl, Stuber, and Midsommar yesterday. I like Crawl and Stuber, but I love Midsommar. Have you seen it yet? Again, haven't gone into the theater to watch it. I was told the entire story. I've heard from a number of people I know that they didn't like it at all. I've heard from a number of people that they really do like it, like yourself. MPE mentioned just a little while ago that he really liked it as well. So it sounds like it's going to be one of those divisive kind of movies. I am curious, though. Let me just double check this. Let me just see what Rotten Tomatoes, where is it at? Because last I checked, it was at like 70 something on Rotten Tomatoes. Where is it sitting right now? It's sitting at 83. I mean, so it's got a really good critic rating. I've just talked to a number of people that it really wasn't for them. I heard a number of people walked out of the film, but I'm also hearing from people like yourself that actually really quite enjoyed it. So, once I heard everything about the film, it kind of, took away some of my motivation to go out and see it. And once I missed the opening weekend, if I don't see a film on opening weekend, it really does lower the chances I'm going to get around to seeing it because I got new films coming out that I got to go see. But this is one that I'm just still too curious about, and I'm going to have to watch at some point. All right. Catman writes, I saw a crawl. Oh, no, that was Catman. Brian Esparza writes, I wonder what happened to people when they blipped back while they were flying. Somebody else brought up that exact same question the other day. The exact same question. What happens to people after the unsnap who were in a plane when they got snapped, when they dusted, if they came back in the same spot? Here's my theory. My theory is, because this person who asked the question the other day, Brian, was asking, did they just suddenly reappear mid-air, 30,000 feet in the air? My theory is they would have snapped back on that plane. Wherever the plane is, they would have snapped back on that plane. If they were in seat J3 on a plane, that's where they would have reappeared. Maybe on somebody's lap or whatever, but I think that's probably what would have happened. But it's funny that you asked that because somebody asked the exact same question the other day. All right. Chocolate Thunder writes, just curious, are there any bad Canadian kids? I think there are good Canadian kids, and then there are kids like a Justin Bieber who got corrupted by our American brothers to the South. I remember when the US and Canada were about to have their gold medal hockey game. I remember one of the American hockey players, this was great. One of the American hockey players put out I can't remember the exact details, but they basically put out this social media post that said, loser has to keep Bieber, as in Justin Bieber, right? Which I thought was hilarious. But then one of the Canadian hockey players tweeted back, you broke him, you keep him, which I thought was also very, very funny. No such thing as bad Canadian. They're all good Canadian kids. Good Canadian kids. That's a good question, Chocolate. Barth Revan writes, will the Spider-Man home movies be on Disney Plus? Again, same question. This has been asked a number of times. I honestly don't know. I think that's Sony's decision, though. Sony, as the distributor of the film, they own the film. They will choose where to put it. But they can put it wherever they want. They can put it on Netflix. They can put it on Hulu. They could put it on wherever they want. And it is possible they can make a deal with Disney to put it on the Disney Plus streaming service. That's totally possible. But I don't believe it's Marvel's decision. It is Sony's decision. So I'm going to guess that that's the most logical place for it to go. I think that's the place where it's going to have its most value. So I think it makes sense for Sony to put it on Disney Plus. So I think it will happen, but it is Sony's decision, and we're going to have to wait to see, when Disney Plus opens, we're going to see if that's what they decided or not. Ike Moore writes, I don't know if the score will affect Lion King. Aladdin was at 57% and it's almost at $1 billion. It's anyone's guess. Again, though, it would have already been over $1 billion. If you take what it has now and you add on top of that positive reviews across the board, like I think it deserved, it would have already crossed the $1 billion mark. So did it have an effect? Yes. Did it change it from being a hit film to a flop? No, nor will that happen with Lion King. Lion King's going to make a massive amount of money. It's just not going to make as much as it could have made. That's all I'm saying. Hideaway Killer writes, who cares what critics say? So out of touch with us. No, you're wrong, Hideaway Killer. You're wrong. Anyway, doesn't influence me. So many movies they say suck, then they make tons of money. Man of Steel for life. Here's the thing, though. Okay, critics are out of touch. All right. Critics loved Endgame. Were they wrong? Critics loved Spider-Man Far From Home. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. 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 Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Critics loved The Dark Knight. Were they wrong? Critics loved Infinity War. Were they wrong? Cr Critics loved, I mean, it's... We as film fans go, when a movie comes out that we want to be good and we hear the critics go, then we always do the big chorus, right? Critics are always wrong. No, you actually agree with the critics. You probably don't even realize it, but you probably agree with the critics 80% of the time. At least 80% of the time. Let me just see if I can bring this up here. Highest Rotten Tomato scores of 2019. Okay, let's just see what the 2019 is so far. Okay, where are we at here? Everybody liked Hotel Mumbai. It's got a certified fresh Rotten Tomato. So there's that. Most people love Captain Marvel. It's got a certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see, where else? Everybody who's seen Late Night tells me they loved it. It's got a certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. What's next here? I'm just trying to get through all the lists that weren't. Everybody loved Long Shot was great. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The only reason I'm scrolling here is because a lot of these films are also small independent films that none of you have had a chance to see. So I'm just trying to get to the ones that we all know. Let me just see here. Where's another one? There's one I disagree with. Lego Movie 2 got an 85%. I didn't like Lego Movie 2. I didn't like that one. So I'm going to disagree on that one. But that one's certified fresh. A lot of people kind of loved it. Rocketman. Everybody loved Rocketman. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's where everybody kind of agrees. Everybody loved The Kid Who Would Be King. I didn't actually get around to seeing it. But certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's one that everybody agrees on. Where's still indie film. John Wick Chapter 3. Everybody loves John Wick Chapter 3. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So everybody agreed. What's the next one? Indie film. How to Train Your Dragon, the hidden world. Everybody loved How to Train Your Dragon 3. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So there you go. Another one where everybody agreed. Next one, Spider-Man Far From Home. Everybody loves that movie. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So everybody agrees. Shazam. Awesome. Everybody I know loved it, except for Robert. Robert's the one guy I know that didn't like it. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So there's another big agreement. Where else in there? Fighting with My Family was so great. Everybody who saw it, and nobody saw it, but everybody should have. Everybody saw it, loved that movie. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, so everybody agreed. Okay, The Last Black Man in San Francisco. I haven't seen it yet, and I know a lot of people haven't, but everybody who's written into my show about it so far, among you guys, have all said you loved it. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So there's another one. Us. Almost everybody enjoys Us. I didn't like it as much as Get Out, but it was still good. Enjoyed it. Everybody seems like it. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Avengers Endgame. Everybody loved it. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, where are we at here? Indie film. Booksmart, which I think is either the best or the second best movie of the year, and everybody that I know that has seen it has loved it. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, Toy Story 4. Everybody's adoring Toy Story 4. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Apollo 11. I haven't seen it, but everybody's raving about it, including Robert. Certified fresh on it. So here's the thing. Like, whenever there's a movie comes out that we want to be a difference, everybody jumps up and down and yells, the critics don't know. When in reality is, probably 80% of the time you actually agree with the critics, and the critics agree with you. I mean, that's just the reality. We can go through the math of it. And now if I went down and did all the worst rated movies, it's probably movies you hated too. But there are exceptions because all film is subjective. There are going to be movies that I love that the critics don't. There's going to be movies that you love that the critics don't. But I acknowledge that probably 90% of the time, the critics generally, the consensus amongst the critics and me generally agree, as they do with most people. So this notion that, blah, 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 movies say suck, makes tons of money. A movie making tons of money does not mean the movie's any good. Transformers, anybody? Hello? So just because a movie makes money does not mean it was any good. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But again, I am in disagreement with the critics when it comes to The Lion King. Go watch it. And by the way, you're saying critics are so out of touch. So you're just saying that you don't agree with them sometimes. That doesn't mean you're the standard. You got to be careful of that. Because when you say stuff like that, you're saying you are the standard of what is good and what is bad. And therefore, if there are critics who disagree with me, that means they're out of touch. And I am the one. I'm the standard that's in touch with everything. And everybody else is wrong. Got to be careful with that. Films are subjective, brother. And there's going to be films like Man of Steel and Lion King that I love that they don't. That happens. If they didn't, then film wouldn't be subjective. So you just got to keep that in mind. Anyway, let's move on here. ZOMG Ruler writes, I wonder what Rotten Tomatoes rating the UE of BVS. I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking, ZOMG. Sorry about that. Fanjecture writes, closest release date I can remember of sequels in a franchise, Back to the Future 2 on November 22nd, 1989, and Back to the Future 3 on May 25th, 1990. I forgot about that. Those came I totally forgot about that. By the way, Fanjecture is one of the sponsors of the John Campea Show. So thank you to Fanjecture for that, by the way. Everybody should go over to fanjecture.com and sign up for the games. Yeah, so what was that? November, December, January, February, March, April. So about 6 months. That's rough. I think, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's roughly the same amount of time between Matrix 2 and 3 as well. But yeah, so for that thing, if we see Halloween come out in the same month, unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented. Just kind of crazy about that. But thank you for bringing that up, Fanjecture. I appreciate you bringing that up because that's actually a really good example. 6 months, closest one we've got so far. Flubber Noobs. I don't know what that means, but I love the name. Flubber Noobs. Oh, sorry. A little bit of a jump. Flubber Noobs writes, Halloween sequels could work that close. MCU movies are technically sequel. Not really, though. They're really not. Because Halloween MCU sequels, MCU films, while they happen in the same cinematic universe, they really aren't sequels. And they're made with entirely different creative teams, with different writers, different directors, different actors, different all that kind of stuff. They're really not. And I understand the temptation to say that, but they're really not. They're the same cinematic universe, but they are not sequels to each other. Completely different creative teams, completely different casts, completely different productions. Unlike Back to the Future 2 and 3, unlike Matrix 2 and 3, unlike what would be Hollywood 2 and 3. So they're very, very different situations. Anyway, are technically sequels to each other, and they come out every 3 months or so. Only thing that couldn't work is box office. They would eat each other. Maybe, maybe not. But again, I don't think in any way, shape, or form are the MCU movies sequels to each other. I mean, obviously, Iron Man 2 is a sequel to Iron Man. But just being in the same cinematic universe, look, when you got a completely different production team, completely different talent, completely different stories, completely different franchise, you can't really say even technically, they're not sequels to each other. Even technically. They are in the shared cinematic universe, but Aquaman is not a sequel to Justice League. You know? Shazam is not a sequel to Batman versus Superman. You know, they're in the same cinematic universe, but it doesn't mean they're sequels to each other. Different writers, producers, directors, cast, all that kind of stuff. They're different films. But even then, 3 or 4 a year. Right? We're separated by months. So even if you wanted to count that, and I don't think you can, but even if, it's still a really different situation from Halloween being in the same month. I don't know that I would do it. I would be afraid of exactly what you're pointing out, Flubber Nuts. The thing I'd be afraid of, which is the thing you're pointing out, is won't the two films eat each other's box office being the same story? But we've never seen it done, so I don't know. Would one feed the other? I don't know. I'd be fascinated to see how they do that, man. Fascinated to see how they do it. Well, anyway, we'll see how that all works out. Dangerous Lee writes, Infernal Affairs 2 and 3 were shot back-to-back and opened only 2 months apart. I did not know that. Infernal Affairs, by the way, my all-time favorite cop movie. And was the precursor, talking about remakes that are great. The Departed is a remake of Infernal Affairs, which won Martin Scorsese his first Director of the Year award and won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. I didn't realize it came out 2 months apart. I know it's your favorite cop film of all time, but I've never heard you mention the sequels. Have you seen them? I have seen the sequels. Love them. Not as much as the original, which is funny because there are a bunch of people that think Infernal Affairs 2 is even better than Infernal Affairs. To me, Infernal Affairs is still the gold standard, but I did not realize they came out only 2 months apart. That's fast. Okay, so now that takes the lead over the Matrix films and the Back to the Future is Infernal Affairs. I didn't even know what. Thank you for sharing that. I love when I get to learn stuff doing this show. Thanks for that, Danger. Okay. MZod780 writes, but John, most critics just didn't understand the nuance and subtlety of Lion King. That's why they don't like it. And with a little winky face, I get it. Yeah, look, what we have to avoid doing as film fans, and me as much or more than anybody, what we have to collectively stop doing as film fans is making excuses, because this is what MZod is making fun of here, is we as film fans tend to make excuses when somebody else or film critics don't agree with our assessment of a film, right? You just didn't like it because you didn't understand it. Oh, I hate that one. You just didn't like that because you like this other movie. What does that have to do with it? I hate that. You just didn't like Lion King because you're just out of touch, or whatever excuse popped into my mind. We gotta resist that temptation. We just gotta acknowledge, hey, you know what? I don't like that the critics don't like Lion King. I think they're crazy. But film's subjective. That was their experience and they're sharing it. And I'm not going to make excuses for why they didn't like it. I'm not going to say they just didn't understand the nuance of it, which is obviously what you're making fun of, Emzad, which I like. I'm not going to make excuses for it. They saw it and they saw it differently than I did. That's the beautiful thing about movies. And and I'm including me in this because I do it too, because I'm a film fan, we got to stop making excuses about why people like things that we don't like, or why people don't like things that we do. Because you see that all over the place. People just, there's somebody who likes something I don't, somebody who doesn't like something I do, and then you make up excuses for it. And we shouldn't do that. And we all do it, but we got to stop. And that includes Lion King. That includes Lion King, Man of Steel, all that kind of stuff. We got to stop doing that. All right. Rob J00 writes, hey, John, how you doing? I'm doing great today. Thank you, Rob. Oh, my God, dude, I love Man of Steel. But if I put $1 in a jar for how many times you talk about Man of Steel, I would be a millionaire. Well, people keep bringing it up. And, it comes up because that is, for me, as a film fan, the Man of Steel is a great example of a film that I passionately love that a hell of a lot of other people don't like at all. I mean, there's plenty of movies that I like that other people don't like, but there's not a lot of movies that I passionately love that a hell of a lot of other people really hate. There's not a lot of them. That's why I also bring up Blade Runner a lot, because that's the opposite, right? It's a movie that everybody passionately loves that I don't actually like. So that's why you'll hear me bring up Blade Runner and bring up Man of Steel a lot, is because those are the two extreme examples of I love, but a lot of people hate, or I didn't like, and a lot of people love. Those are the two kind of extreme examples. That's why I bring those up a lot. Just because they make the point, that's all. And I love Man of Steel. Rob J00 also writes, over under 70% that when someone talks about Lion King, you mention Man of Steel, probably over 70%, because it is. This is the new example of that. See, I've always said that Man of Steel is the one shining example of that, of a movie I passionately love. And yet tons of critics and tons of people just don't like it. And it boggles my mind because I just think the movie's so fantastic. And now is another movie finally comes along that's just like that, and that's Lion King. A movie that I just think is bloody fantastic. And yet a lot of critics watched and had a completely different experience than I did. And so, yep. Probably, at least for the next few weeks, whenever Lion King comes up, I'm probably going to bring up Man of Steel because of the way they're similar to each other in that way. Anyway, another Skywalker, oh my God, sends in a huge super chat, sends in a $100 super chat. Thank you, another Skywalker, by the way, love the name. Thank you for that. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. I thank you. Rob thanks you. Chris thanks you. Aaron thanks you. Fact checker Jonathan thanks you. Reid, thanks you. Thank you so much, man. Anyway, writes, fans since the AMC days, keep up the great work. And dude, you just sent that in just to say something nice. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for that. When you send in a super chat that size, I wish you'd sent in a question because I want to give you more for what, but thank you, man. Seriously. And by the way, guys, thank you to all of you who not only do you send in these questions and that you give us some great, fun, interesting, debatable stuff to talk about, whether we agree or disagree, that's the fun of it. But by sending in these chats, you're also supporting the channel and making what we do here possible. So biggest of all, thank you to you, another Skywalker, but to all of you who do that, thank you very much. You give us fun stuff to talk about. You support the channel. Thank you. And people say that audiences won't support the content they watch. You guys do, and I thank you for that. And again, thank you, another Skywalker. I appreciate it. And thanks for being around since the AMC days, man. I really appreciate that. All right. Let's keep going here. We just got a few more left to go. FlySwatter0182 writes, in regards to yesterday's question about Space Hunter Adventure and the cute redhead never working again, she has. It's Molly Ringwald. Really? Well, see, I didn't see them. I remember that question yesterday. I had not seen either of the movies that were brought up, but remember the cute redhead being named. But I like Molly Ringwald. And it's not just, 16 Candles or Breakfast Club, whatever. I like Molly Ringwald. I've always enjoyed seeing her when she's popped up and stuff. I even watched a couple of episodes of her on Riverdale. I don't like that show anymore at all. But I remember she popped up on Riverdale. I think she was Archie's mom or something like that. I like Molly Ringwald. Thanks for the factoid on that, Fly Swatter. I appreciate that, man. That's interesting to know. All right. Epic Berserker writes, if you want a perfection meal at Disneyland, go to the Disneyland Hotel and eat at Steakhouse 55. It's amazing, you and your wife. You know what? We just stayed at the Disneyland Hotel because the first time we went to Galaxy's Edge, you had to have a hotel reservation. So we went there and we walked right up to the door, looked at the menu of Steakhouse 55, and we almost went in, but we were just in the mood for something else. And so we left, but we were standing right there. I think someday we will go to Steakhouse 55 because it did look really good. It looked really good. Thank you for the recommendation, Epic Berserker. I appreciate that. Brian Esparza writes, have you crafted your own lightsaber in Galaxy's Edge? Nah, and I probably won't. $100 bucks, $150 to do it. And where would I put it? I just honestly don't know where I would put it at this point. So no, I spend more money going to Disneyland than I should. I spend more money going to Disneyland than I can afford. But what can I say? I'm a sucker. I love Disneyland. Sue me. Anyway, that I can't be going around and spending that kind of money on just a toilet. I can't do it. So I haven't, and I probably won't. Maybe Anne will get it. Like maybe when my birthday comes, she'll take me there. And she goes, my birthday present for you is to do that. Maybe then I'll get one. But no, I have not done that yet. But apparently everybody who does it really has a good time doing it. All right. S Beam writes, thanks for choosing my topic today. No, dude, thank you for sending it in a super chat, man. Absolutely. By the way, when you send in super chats, they get answered. Even if we run out of time on the show, then I take them and I get them into companion videos. But if you're going to support the channel and send in a super chat, and you're going to be one of the reasons why we're able to do it, your question is getting answered. So no, S-Beam, thank you. Anyway, highlight of my day so far. Were you at the 2014 San Diego Comic-Con that year? I was there. Hope to go again at some point. I'm going to guess yes, because I've been to Comic-Con for about 10 years in a row, with the exception of 1 year. 1 year I decided I'm just wiped out. I just don't feel like going. I'm just going to stay at home. There was 1 year in the last 10 years that I didn't go. Now, it might have been 2014, but I think the odds are a pretty good guess that I was probably there. As I'm going to be there again next week. Very excited about Comic-Con this year. Anyway, Space King Luna writes, where are we at here? Space King Luna writes, will you ever watch and review The Professor and the Madman? I personally love it. Great acting. The way they show the effects of PTSD was emotional. I do want to see it. I've been fascinated by it. Am I ever going to review it? No. If I don't see a movie the week it comes out, particularly the weekend it comes out, I probably won't review it because there's no point. There's no point at that point me reviewing it. So I am curious very much about seeing it because I thought the trailers looked fantastic. And we've talked about it on this show before. But will I ever review it? No, it's too late. Too late for me to review it, unfortunately. But thank you, Space King, for putting that back on my radar because it does look fascinating to me and I do want to get around to watching that. ZMG Ruler writes, would the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman have been higher on Rotten Tomatoes? Here's the thing. I like Batman versus Superman. I didn't need the extended edition to like it. I like Batman versus Superman right out of the gate. It has its issues, yes. And while I do feel, I've said this before and some people have disagreed and that's fine. While I do feel that the Ultimate Edition is a slightly better version of Batman versus Superman, I don't think it's that much better. Like, I've got this buddy, a Hollywood editor named Cliff, who's a buddy of mine. And he does a lot of work in Hollywood, like big major films. And I remember his big critique of the Ultimate Edition, and I 100% agreed with him. My one big critique of the Ultimate Edition was they just dropped more stuff in without editing anything else. All they did was take the movie and then backed up a bucket and just dumped a whole bunch more stuff in it without editing anything else out, without doing more to finesse the edits and rearrange some things that really would have made it a true different cut. As it stood, it's just a bunch of additional material. And again, I think it did make it a little bit better. I think it was a little bit better of a version than the original, but it also brought some problems along with it. Like what was already a long film became really long. And unnecessarily really long. Like Endgame is really long, but it was, it kind of needed all that airtime. Batman vs. Superman, the Ultimate Edition, I didn't think it did. It should have been, they should have added new material and edited some other material out. And that motivated my buddy Cliff to do what something called the Batman vs. Superman Arkham edit. He did his own edit of the film, and it's the best version of Batman vs. Superman I've ever seen. He calls it the Arkham edit. It's amazing. So would it have been higher on Rotten Tomatoes? Hard to say. Maybe slightly, but with all the benefits of the extra material, it would have been an unnecessary lengthening of the film without anything else out. And I think it made the film drag a little bit. Like the Ultimate Edition drags in some places that the original cut didn't, because it was just added footage without editing anything else out. And that would have compromised it. But I'll go out and say, yes, I think it would have been slightly higher. Maybe 2 or 3 points higher, not much more, but I think slightly higher. That's just, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I think. All right. Suthius writes, I can't stand it when people use the phrase, you're not a real fan, artist, etc., just because you don't like or isn't well-versed in something. Oh, I agree. Now, I used to joke around. One of the big jokes I used to have around the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, was friends don't let other friends be fans of the prequels. But that was just jest. That's just in jest. Obviously, if I want people to love the prequels, I hate the prequels, but I want everybody else to love them. I don't like them, but I hope you do. And if you do like the prequels, I celebrate that. That's awesome. But yeah, you're never going to hear me say to somebody, if you don't like this movie, then you're not a real fan of whatever this property is. Like, no, that is one of the most that's probably as frustrating to hear as somebody going, well, then you just didn't understand it. That one I hate too. That's the lazy, poor man's pathetic excuse for people grasping at straws to try to make an argument. If you want to see somebody who's desperately grasping at straws to make some kind of an argument, to make themselves feel better about their own opinion, watch for somebody who says, you just didn't understand it, or you're not a real fan of this. Yeah. And let's face it, we've all done it, right? We've all done it at some point. We all do stupid things. That's one of the stupid things we do. We've all done it. I'm guilty of having done that before, and I'm embarrassed when I like. We all get these things. We look at things we used to do and go, "Oh, did I really used to do that?" Yeah, we do. Let's be honest. It is one of the more irritating things that we as film fans do, and we got to stop it. Let's see. Rocky Gaona writes, John, what do you think of the Raiders moving to Vegas? I kind of dig it. Selfishly, I kind of dig it because I do go to Vegas a lot. And now that there's an NHL team there and we're going to get an NFL team there, it just gives me some more cool stuff to do when I go to Vegas. I'll tell you what, and every time I go to Vegas now, man, drive by that huge stadium being built, I'm excited for it. I think Vegas is a prime place to have professional sports. And I love that the Golden Knights have gone to the Stanley Cup Finals already. People in Vegas love the Golden Knights. They love NHL hockey. And I think they're going to love football too, so I like it myself. Final 2 questions of the day. Suthius writes, do you consider tennis a sport or a game? I say sport. Oh, it's definitely a sport. You have to be a high-level athlete. You have to be incredibly athletic to play tennis. Like everything you need that defines athleticism, you need it for tennis. You have to be in incredible condition, be physically strong, in great shape, all that you need. Yeah, it's a sport. Tennis, I don't play it, but tennis is definitely a sport. S. Beam writes, and this is the final chapter of the day. Super chat. Yeah, it was a main topic today. Oh, you're talking about one of the main topics. Yeah. So, like, by the way, guys, there are some people who don't get this, and it's true. Like, some people think the only way to get a topic on the John Campea Show is to send in a super chat, and that's not true. All of our main topics that we cover, you can just, again, all the main topics we talked about here today come from you guys. You don't need to super chat. You can just go over, once again, to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact and send it in. Now, I can't guarantee that if you send in a topic or question there that it'll get used, because we do get a lot of them sent in and we can only do 5 of them a day. But yeah, all of the main topics that we do here on the John Campea Show all come to us from you guys when you send them into that. Anyway, with that said, that will do it for us for today, guys, for this installment of the John Campea Show. And congratulations, guys. You made it through to the end of another week. The weekend is nigh, and I hope you guys have some great plans for the weekend. The John Campea Show will, of course, return on Monday. Me, Robert, and I believe Chris is going to be joining us. So me, Robert, and Chris will be back on Monday. But don't forget this weekend as well, guys, we got open mic coming tomorrow. So keep an eye if you're around for this weekend. Want something to do tomorrow afternoon? We're going to have full open mic tomorrow. Make sure you join us for that. And again, damn it, I got to get around to it. The Spider-Man spoiler discussion, the second part of that will be coming up later today. Then again, I said that yesterday and I didn't get around to it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really swamped. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. Hopefully that'll come back a little bit later today. Hey, guys, listen. Thank you for another great week. And thank you for being film fans. Thank you for you guys who sent in stuff agreeing with me. Thank you guys for sending in stuff that disagrees with me. That's when it's really fun to have our conversations. Thank you to all of you who watched. Thank you to all of you who leave comments in the comments section. Thank you to all of you who sends in super chats. By the way, for those of you who are our Patreon supporters, and guys, let me plug it. We have a Patreon supporting campaign. For those of you guys who are Patreon supporters, the new Patreon, a new episode of the Patreon exclusive Best of the Week podcast is coming later today. Keep your eyes open for that for those of you who are Patreon supporters. So listen for that. Guys, it's been a great week. Thank you for being awesome. Thank you for being a film fan community. My name is John Campea, guys, and until next time, bye-bye.